What a weekend it was. The Sports Bash live on a Monday, looking back at a couple of big wins and some losses. The Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, 97.3 ESPN. Follow us on the 97.3 ESPN YouTube channel, 97.3 ESPN on the X platform. I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Hennings producing today's show. You out there? What's up Monday? Holy moly, where do we start? I mean, are the Flyers at the top of your list? Is it the big Sixer win from Saturday on the road at Charlotte? A healthy Sixers team showing what they might be able to be. The problem is with the Sixer win, if you're a casual basketball fan, I don't think you realize how good Charlotte's been. They've been one of the 5 best teams in basketball since the All-Star break. But they're hanging around the play-in tournament right now because they got off to such a slow start because of injuries and stuff. But when they've had their starting 5 on the floor, they've been one of the best teams in basketball. The Sixers go down to Charlotte and beat them, and then Charlotte has to play the back-to-back, and they end up winning the back-to-back game. So it shows you that was a legit good win. It's probably the best Sixer win in, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years maybe. Who knows? The Flyers win last night. Probably the best Flyers win in 10 years. I mean, seriously. They beat Dallas last night, who is a legit Stanley Cup contender. And they were the better team all night long. They outshot them, forechecked them, beat them to the spots. I had enjoyed watching the game last night. You know what I didn't enjoy? Watching the Phillies this weekend. I enjoyed the Sixers on Saturday. I enjoyed the Flyers on both Saturday and Sunday. I did not – wait, the Flyers played on, Saturday and Sunday. They played the back-to-back. I did not enjoy the Phillies on Saturday or Sunday. What I got from the Phillies was more of what I get from the Phillies come October. You know, the one thing about the Phillies that we knew is that this offense was going to be similar. What we got this weekend was the same results. Chase rate 30%, swinging at pitches out of the zone, a lot of strikeouts. They were no hit on Saturday through 5 and Sunday through 6. And I get it. This team is built around the slug. They'll hit a lot of home runs, and they'll score a lot of runs, and then they'll go through little doldrums where they don't do much at all. I don't know how, though, the Phillies organization can look at this team and say, we brought back the same exact team and we're okay with the results. Like, okay, they might win 96 games and 98 games. I have them winning 98 games this year. But how do you watch what you saw this weekend and say, man, we made some changes that I'm really excited about? Lackluster offense, chase rate, and listen, the pitching was not great either. Aaron Nola, 2 gopher balls. Jesus Luzardo, 2 gopher balls. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm worried about Luzardo. Nola, I don't know what to tell you about him. But at the same time, same problems for the Phillies. Top of the order. I think right now you got, 125, 140, 091 from Bryce Harper. And then there's Bryce Harper, who comes up with the bases loaded the other day and strikes out. And the place begins to boo. They shower him with boos. In Game 2 of the season, he is already getting showered with boos. Is this going to continue to manifest itself as the season rolls on? Like if he strikes out tonight in a big spot, do the boos continue? This relationship between the Phillies fans and Bryce Harper is souring. And until Bryce Harper does something to change the perception of this relationship, I don't know that it's going to be a fun season for Bryce Harper. You know, we look at this team and we wonder what's different about them. You know, you got Justin Crawford. He adds a little speed to the team. But listen, they had a guy in Johan Rojas who added speed and all that to the team. And Rojas, you know, wasn't anything special. Crawford might be a little bit better than Rojas. I'm not saying that he's worse than Rojas. I'm saying he's, you know, for as bad as Rojas was, it wasn't like he hit 190. You know, Rojas wasn't very good. He got on base. He stole bases. He hit ninth. Like, adding a 9-hole hitter to this team wasn't what this team needed to change the dynamics of them. And listen, so far, Justin Crawford's been okay, 333, 400 on-base percentage. Those numbers are good. But you can see, having the 9-hole hitter, if 1, 2, and 3 are scuffling along, and you're not expecting them to scuffle along all the way, but, you know, quite frankly, like Rojas last year, I don't know how much different Crawford in the 9-hole is going to make this lineup. Trey Turner, right now, 154. Schwarber, 154. Harper, 091. Adolis Garcia. Now, he's hitting 091. I thought he had a couple decent at-bats. He drove in the run yesterday, but he had a good at-bat there where he lined out to left field. He had that at-bat on Saturday that nobody remembers because they ended up losing that game. They're down 3-0 in the ninth. They come back and tie the game up, and then Duran implodes. Bohm's hitting 200. He did hit the home run on opening day. Real Muto, Realmuto 111, and he's supposedly not going to be in the lineup tonight. Otto Kemp, the adventures of Otto Kemp in left field. He has not got a hit yet, and if he's not going to get a hit, can you keep playing him in left field with the adventures? And I said this all spring training long. One day he's playing first base. There's one day he's playing third base. How the hell do you play that guy in spring training anywhere else but left field? Now, I'm not going to tell you if you played him in spring training in left field every day that he was going to turn into a Gold Glover. But he was terrible out there the other day. Sosa did get a hit, and obviously they struggled along all weekend long. And in Game 2, they didn't have to face Jacob deGrom. DeGrom woke up with a stiff neck, so they pitched Jacob Lutz or some Lutz of Fun or somebody. And he shut you down for the whole first 5 innings of that game. So the offense is what it is. It's the same old story. It's going to be a frustrating season. It's not a fun season if you're going to constantly be micromanaging what their offense is. But it's not getting any better. Okay? The offense is, I don't say it's getting worse. It's not going to be awful. But what you saw this weekend is what you're going to get a lot of. You're going to get nights where the pitcher you never heard of shuts you down. You're going to get nights where you strike out 10 times and don't score a run. And then you're going to get a little stretch where you score 8 runs and 7 runs and 6 runs and hit a bunch of homers. That's who the Phillies are. That's who they've always been. Geoff is watching on YouTube. He says, everyone relax. The bats always start slow. Get me to May 1st with a record of 16-15, and I'll be happy. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not hitting the panic button, Geoff, but what I will say is this. The more at-bats that Bryce Harper puts together that result in the crowd booing him, you are looking at this train coming on the tracks, and on the other side, you're getting these boos that keep coming at him. And I wonder how much of that he really is interested in taking. Here's a guy who has pandered to the crowd more than anything. He feels like he can almost do no wrong. And the fans are saying, we're kind of tired of this. And he right now, right or wrong, is the poster child of this organization and the frustrations when they are struggling. Now, it's not fair because this team that wins 96 games last year, they don't struggle as much as they succeed. But when they do struggle, it gets manifested because who the struggle generally comes from, the highest paid players. And that is something that the Phillies invested so much in Turner, Schwarber, and Harper, and Real Muto. He gets paid $15 million. He's not absolved of this. He got a 3-year, $45 million deal, JT Realmuto. Don't tell me you paid a guy $15 million to push a button that has a speaker in the guy's hat to tell him what pitch to throw. You got to do more than for $15 million than call the pitch. And he's hitting in the 8 hole. So he's not a big part of this offense at all. His power has declined. Now, do I think Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, and Bryce Harper are going to hit 154 all season long? Of course not. But chase rate, 31%. They haven't learned at all. Bryce Harper, 191, 231 on base, 091 slug, a 322 OPS. Those numbers are dreadful. 6 strikeouts for Schwarber. Now, Schwarber, we know, strikes out a lot. No one's hitting the panic button on Schwarber, but I do think people are looking at Bryce Harper. For whatever it is, the relationship with Bryce Harper feels a little, strained, the right word?
Well, I think a lot of people are frustrated because Harper did a lot of talking before the season, right? He talked about Dombrowski. He talked about the no elite comment. He talked about wanting to play for Team USA. He did a lot of his mouth moving, and people were like, well, you're talking, you got to deliver now. It's like a wrestler, right? The wrestler cuts a great promo, but they should have had a lousy match. You can't do that. The fans are going to boo.
Well, and listen, it's tough to decipher because the moment is bases loaded and you feel some momentum and he strikes out. I don't care who's at the plate. They would have got booed in that situation.
But I think it's more because it's Harper.
That's what I say. Is it more because it was Harper, though?
If it was Bryson Stott, people are not happy, but they're not, mad about it. Harper, to me, feels like a guy who's done so much talking that you should just shut up. I think a lot of people, I've seen them on comments online, be like, we heard Harper talk about how he could come in, have a great season, and he's done nothing for me.
Well, this was manifested by the president of baseball operations, the whole elite thing. So this wasn't the fans who started this.
No, the fans
The organization started this with the elite, and then Harper with the shirt.
With the reaction.
He did himself no favors to act like he was mad that this even came up. I thought this was behind us. Well, guess what? You're the highest paid guy. The fans have been on your side, and the fans tended to agree with ownership, with Dombrowski here. They thought what Dombrowski said was fair, and you made it like, how dare they question me? So if you're going to make it like, how dare they question me, you can't come up in a spot with a chance to help your team out and go down swinging like you've never seen somebody throw you an outside slider.
And if we can go back to the other part that's frustrating, which is I had a conversation with a couple of buddies of mine this weekend. The entire regime of this current team, the Dombrowski era with the Harper, Schwarber, Realmuto contingent, why is it every time a no-name pitcher gets on the mound, this team has no idea what to do? You should not be getting shut down by Jacob Latz.
Happens a lot.
But it happens every time.
Yep.
Every year. It's a year in and a year out. And how much did we hear? We're going to change our approach. We're going to be more patient at the plate. We're going to try to take more pitches. I didn't see that on Saturday. Did you?
31% chase rate. It was one of the worst numbers in all of baseball this weekend. And look, it's manifested by guys who that's what they do. You've got Schwarber, who strikes out a lot. You've got Garcia. He struck out 5 times this weekend. You had Harper. He struck out 3 times this weekend. Turner, he struck out 3 times this weekend. Realmuto struck out 5 times. Crawford 3 times. Marsh 3 times. I mean, everybody got in on the strikeout. They struck out 31 times in 3 games.
Yeah.
31 times in 3 games against, listen, Evaldi's a good pitcher. He's not elite.
No.
You didn't face DeGrom.
Right, you faced Latz.
And then Mackenzie Gore is a very good pitcher, but he's not a number 1A guy. Like, you struck out 31 times against guys who, I would say Evaldi and Gore are like 2 3s, and Latz is like a 7.
Yeah, Latz is not even on the radar. You should have gone into. They should have won the game Saturday.
Well, that game, it's 3-0 all day long. They are basically snoozing along in the game.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, like the Sixers game had just started. Now, mind you, I'm calling the Bluecoats game at 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So the tip-off of the Bluecoats is at the same time of the tip-off of the Sixers.
Okay.
But at the same time, the Phillies game is 3-0 in the ninth. So I'm like trying to pay attention to both of them. I got my laptop up, I got my phone on, and I'm calling play-by-play of a game in front of me.
And again, this is because you don't like to watch games later.
Yeah, I'm watching it in real time. I can multitask, though. I have the ability to watch 3 different things, and I can take them all in at the same time. So I got the Phillies game on one, I got the Sixers game on the other, and I'm calling play-by-play of a game that's actually live in front of me. The Phillies game's 3-0 in the ninth. That game, to me, it's over. You haven't had a hit all day. You had 5 hits the whole day. 5. And then, all of a sudden, in the ninth inning,
Yep.
you decide to wake up.
Yep.
Garcia, that double to left field, all of a sudden, that gets the first run home. Then the Marsh single, that gets 2 runs around. All right, here we are. And Duran can't get the job done. He's the one guy that I said, man, you got Duran over Romano. How many save opportunities are you going to have that you're going to actually convert instead of cough up? And the first save opportunity that you got, you coughed it up.
Well, it's also a factor in the reality that the guys around him messed up too. You know, some of those plays behind him in the field didn't put him in a good situation either.
This is true. No question about it. But he gives up 2 runs. And then, of course, Harper did single to make it a 5-4 game. So give Harper a little credit in the extra inning of the game on Saturday. But, you know, they end up getting stonewalled after that. So they lose that game 5-4. And you're thinking, okay, maybe they came on late. Maybe they got something going. And then the next day you're facing Mackenzie Gore, who, by the way, is a good pitcher. Gore is not
And he's had success against you with the Nationals.
Yes, and he's a lefty. And listen, the Phillies' record against lefties versus righties is significantly different. We know they take a big drop-off because their right-handed bats are not nearly as good. But to go out there and you strike out 7 times against Gore, you don't get a hit until, what, I think the 6th inning when finally Crawford hit a little nubber in the infield and beat it out. That's your first hit of the game.
Yeah, why is Justin
Crawford? You follow it up
Crawford?
with a 4-hit day. So you had 5 hits in extra innings, and many of the hits came in extra innings or the ninth. And then the next day you get 4 lousy hits. 4. Very frustrating. Now, listen, am I going to sit here and say the season's doomed, everything's over? Of course not. But it is a frustration that I think Phillies fans are going to carry with them every time they go to Citizens Bank Park. And every time there's a key spot that Turner and Harper and Bohm and Real Muto and the same guys who have been here, they come up to bat and they don't get the job done. It's just more ammunition to be like, I'm tired of this. And listen, even though 96 wins is a heck of a lot of wins, right? 96 wins is a ton of wins. But I guarantee you, talking to Phillies fans for as long as I have, people don't remember the 96 wins at all. What do they remember? They remember the 66 losses. They remember the 66 losses way more than the 96 wins. And what they really remember is the 3 losses in October. That outranks all 96 wins. The 66 losses through the season and the 3 losses in October are the greater than sign 96. And that's just the way it is. That's the way the fans, especially when you keep rolling out the same lineup. Somebody said, hey, they got 11 new players. They tweeted at me last night. They only have 2 new guys in the lineup. Most of the new faces are bullpen arms, right? Jonathan Bolin, Backus, Zach Pop. There's another guy in that bullpen that I can't remember right now. There's like 4 new bullpen guys who weren't here last year.
Oh, Brad Keller.
Brad Keller. They had to bring Brad Keller in the game last night just to get him some work because there hasn't been any opportunities for him. Now, you're playing a Nationals team who, quite frankly, does not have a lot of expectations this year. You're playing a Nationals team that you're getting the 4th, and now I think tomorrow they're having an opener pitch. So you should have the opportunity to get your offense going this week.
Should.
We'll see. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. That's the text board. If you're watching on YouTube, you can always comment in the comment section on the YouTube channel. I see Les is watching. Definitely doesn't like Rob Thompson for some crazy reason. Is very intrigued by Buck Showalter, Walter managing the team.
I would like
don't
to know
that
how
the
that's
manager
yeah.
change is really changing much for this team at all. I don't know what the manager did this weekend that helped or hurt them. They just didn't hit. So if you could put insert manager of the year in the dugout this weekend, I think they would have ended up with 4 hits on Sunday and 5 hits on Saturday. But if you are less one of those people that are in the blame manager camp, you do you. I'm not telling you you're wrong. You're well within your right to say I don't like the manager of this team. I have no problem with a manager change. I just don't think that's getting them any more hits on Saturday and or Sunday.
I will never be the guy who blames the manager for the player failing to do their job.
We got a lot of texts coming in. Andrew in Summers Point, wait till the fans start wearing not elite T-shirts. You know, Andrew, that's a fun point, that it's only a matter of time between the boos turn into something bigger. And I don't know what that is, but maybe it's not elite. Maybe it's something.
Them chanting it, maybe?
Anybody go to the game this weekend? It felt like that strikeout with the bases loaded. It felt like we're tired of this. Now, Edmundo Sosa could have struck out in that spot, and I think people would have booed because I always say you're not booing the player. You're booing the result of the play. But I think the player magnified the boos to another level. Lou in Pleasantville says we don't need to hit the panic button because the Phillies brass already hit the rewind and the play button again. And by the way, Harper is what he is. More talk than walk. Yeah, right now, Lou, you're not wrong about that. He is definitely, I don't want to say becoming public enemy number 1.
There's fatigue, right?
There's fatigue. Yes, there's fatigue. And that's what sadly sports has become. If you don't get the new shiny toy, you start to get tired. Our attention spans are so short and so small in life that, hey, I've been playing with this toy for so long, I want something different. And it might not even be the toy's fault. I just want something new. I want something different. And that's what we talked about this offseason. You got to bring back Schwarber. But the Mets didn't bring back Alonso. They just said, listen, we have to do something different. Even though Alonso, Bo Bichette's getting booed this weekend. The new toy up there. Bill in EHT says, Mike, the Phillies' problem is they all look to hit home runs instead of putting the ball in play. Any one of us can do that, what they're doing. Striking out. And if they face mediocre pitchers, they can't even hit ground balls. This shows that their batting practice isn't important. Just focus on hitting balls around the field, not boom, home run, shake my head. Well, Bill and EHT, sadly, the Phillies are an older team. They're a kind of an aging team, and that's who they are. It's hard then to say to a guy who's like 33 years old, say, hey, guess what? You're going to have to learn a new way to hit. All right, we got a lot of people texted in on the White Horse RV text board. A lot of people on the White Horse RV text board. 609-403-0973. We'll have a lot of chance to read and react to them. 609-403-0973. Busy night. Sixers tonight, they take on the Heat. It's an important game. The Phillies lose this weekend 2 out of 3, but the Sixers beat the Hornets, huge win on Saturday, and the Flyers beat the Stars and the Red Wings on Saturday, the Stars on Sunday, 2 massive wins, and they're getting some addition to this team. We're going to talk about that with Kevin Durso tonight at 5:30. Paul Hudrick will join us. Geoff Kerr will be at Citizens Bank Park. He was at all 3 games this weekend. He'll give us some insight on that. Plus the Nuggets at 3 o'clock today. And Howie Roseman. What did he say about A.J. Brown's future in Philly? We'll talk about it with Jeff Mosher at 4 o'clock today for Football 4. More Sports Bash coming up, 97.3 ESPN. All right, 232 Sports Bash. Check out Ocean Casino Resort. Bert Kreischer appears Friday, April 3rd and Saturday, April 4th at Ovation Hall. Bert Kreischer at Ovation Hall. Get your tickets now at theoceanac.com. Phils and Nats tonight, but a 1-3 weekend. I got a lot of text messages like this one on the White Horse RV text board. Hey, people like Harper, but it's starting to build up, and I blame Dombrowski for not getting a real right-handed power bat. It's the third game into the season. We're already hearing many of the same texts that I got 1 year ago, and the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that. Mike McGarry for the Press of Atlantic City. Sounds like the same old story for the Phils through 3 games. You were there. What'd you see?
Yeah, the same old story, basically. I thought if there was a team that needed to get off to a quick start to sort of erase the hangover of some past October performances, especially the one against the Dodgers last year, it was the Philadelphia Phillies, and it didn't happen through the first 3 games of the season, and a lot of the problems that you saw in the postseason kind of lingered, in these first 3 games, particularly the top of the order. Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, and Bryce Harper really struggling in the 3-game series.
Now, do you think, the Harper strikeout with the bases loaded, he gets the boos, I mean, is there some tension building here, the relationship between Harper and this fan base right now, or is that just the result of that moment right there?
Yeah, I think it's just a result of that moment, Mike. What I will say, however, and what I noticed is I don't think the fans have a lot of patience, The goodwill of, the unexpected playoff run in 2022 to the World Series has kind of gone away. The Phillies are not getting the benefit of the doubt anymore. So, I think when they booed in that situation, it was more or less, if anybody had struck out in that situation, they would have heard the boos. It was just Harper who happened to go down. And I also noticed the attendance was a little down. Weather wasn't great, but, 40,000, no sellout on Saturday, and 38,000, no sellout on Sunday, where I think last year and the year before, those games would have been sold out. So I do think the patience that the fans have for the Phillies is not what it was, a couple of years ago.
Obviously, this team's problem, a lot of strikeouts. They struck out 31 times in 3 games. That's over 10 per game. It seems like that is something that's just not going to go away, Mike. And at the end, I said they won 96 games. They do it the way they do it. But people seem to remember the 66 losses way more than the 96 wins.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just, you have an expectation that they're going to win every game, right? They're going in and that they should win every game. So I think that's what the fans have. So when you expect them to win, what stands out? The losses stand out. So it's almost like the losses become more meaningful or more memorable than the wins, especially when you win 96 games in a division, but you don't win a playoff series. So there's no bedlam at the bank moment to sort of hang your hat on from last season. So that's why I think people remember the losses. I mean, they got off to a good start on opening day. Alec Bohm hits a 3-run home run. And then, on Saturday and Sunday, they just didn't hit. Now, again, you're caught between, 3 games into the season pushing the panic button or saying, there's a long way to go, which there obviously is. But again, I thought this team needed to get off to a good start because it's the same core, and I think they needed to erase some of the memories of last year. And the way to get off to a good start is to go 2-1 or 3-0. They're 1-2. Doesn't mean they can't turn it around, sweep the Nationals, come out of this homestand 4-2, and be on their way. But I think they've got to win some games here early. Even, I'm not saying if they lose, they're not going to make the playoffs or something. I think for their own mental health, our mental health, your mental health, the fans' mental health, they need to win some ball games and hit the ball a little bit.
Well, you wrote about it at pressofatlanticcity.com that we'll get there after the slow start to the season. But are there reasons to say maybe their lineup, it won't get there? I mean, it's the same lineup. They haven't done anything different. Are we starting to feel that maybe this league has figured out this lineup pretty precisely?
Yeah, I think the not getting there is we see the same sort of problems that cost them playoff games last year. The inability to hit in the clutch. Perfect example, Harper yesterday comes up with the bases loaded and strikes out. That reminds you of a postseason at bat against the Diamondbacks, against the Mets, against the Dodgers. So I think that's the issue. And I do think, Mike, you have the question of age with these guys. Trey Turner's 32, Harper's 33. Are they kind of turning the corner? Are they what they were when they first signed here?
Right.
So I think there's some legitimate questions going forward. Aaron Nola, another guy. Is he the pitcher he was 3-4 years ago? I'm not so sure about that. So I think the age and the wear and tear is a legitimate question. Again, how do you answer those questions? You win some ball games. Nobody's expecting them to go 162-0, but what you don't want to see is them losing the same way they've lost in the playoffs the past 3 years.
So I would ask you, Mike, you were there and saw them play the last couple of years and this weekend. Were those losses the same way that they've been losing over the years?
Yeah, the two losses, Saturday and Sunday, the inability to hit, getting no hit for 4 2/3 on Saturday, getting no hit for 5 innings on Sunday. That is reminiscent of what the Bats did, against the Dodgers and against the Mets and against the Diamondbacks in Game 6 and in Game 7. You don't want to judge Garcia, the new addition in right field, too harshly. It's only been 3 games, but he didn't do that much. He benefited from a Jake Berger dropping a pop fly. If he drops that pop fly, Garcia doesn't hit a broken back double to sort of extend that 9th inning rally on Saturday. So, yeah, I think, Mike, if you're anti-Philadelphia Phillies or you're worried about the Philadelphia Phillies, I can find, 10 reasons to validate that point of view 3 games into the season. And my defense against that point of view would be, well, it's early. And that's the Phillies' defense, too, and we're going to get there. I sometimes think that the players kind of look at us with a bemused look in our eye when we ask them questions about, like, is it good? Are you worried about your start, this and that? They look at us like we're crazy. There's 159 games to go. Lighten up, buddy, But, again.
They're not wrong.
Right, they're not wrong, but that's not, a really good answer to what, people who have questions about the Phillies have. A better answer is to have Harper hit a double in the gap with the bases loaded and take 2 out of 3 from the Texas Rangers. That's a better answer than there's still 159 games to go.
Right, and of course you mentioned Nola. He gave up the 2 long balls. Luzardo, he gave up a couple of long balls, and then of course they get off the mat on Saturday, send the game to extras. You bring in Duran and figure, okay, this is the one ironclad thing we got, and then he blows the save or the win, I guess, in that situation. So it was a rough weekend after the opening day at Citizens Bank Park, and now you're going into a matchup where you got Taijuan Walker trying to get you off the this losing skid here. You're turning to Walker and Painter. It's pretty big, interesting games for those 2 guys all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, Taijuan Walker, we kind of know what to expect with him. He's just out there to kind of get the Phillies through, 5 or 6 innings would be, 6 innings, 4 runs, or 6 innings, 3 runs would be, you'd probably sign for that from Taijuan Walker right now and hope that the bats, sort of wake up against the Nationals. But the Andrew Painter start on Tuesday night is to me, must-watch game for the Phillies. Here's, the organization's top pitching prospect, since Nola, maybe since Cole Hamels, and he's going to start, and we'll see exactly what he can sort of give that rotation. I mean, they got a good weekend out of Justin Crawford. He got the 2 hits on Thursday, made a great catch, I think, on Saturday, broke up the no-hitter yesterday. So Justin Crawford kind of upheld his end of the bargain in his first 3 games. I think it's very interesting to see what Andrew Painter looks like tomorrow night against the Washington Nationals.
All right. Obviously, we'll keep our eyes on that. Mike, we have basically told the Sixers we'll only pay attention if you get out of the second round. But are we paying more attention after what probably is one of their most impressive wins in quite some time? I mean, this Hornets team, everyone's buzzing about them. Everyone's talking about them. And the Sixers go on the road to Charlotte with their full 5 guys for the first time in a long time, and maybe one of the more impressive wins of the season. Does it do anything to move you?
Yeah, it makes me open up an eye. Not 2 eyes, Mike, but one eye. And do have some interest. Hey, here's what I know. If the Sixers are going to be a 6 seed or, they come out of the play-in and they're the 7 seed or whatever, I wouldn't want to be the New York Knicks or the Boston Celtics and look up and see a healthy Sixers team with Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey coming, being my opponent in game in the first round. Because to me, the Sixers are capable of beating those teams in a 7-game series, or at the very least, making that series go 6 or 7 games. I think when the Sixers are healthy, and they've got Embiid, George, Maxey, Edgecombe is good, Oubre is back, boy, they're a team that you would look at and say, boy, I won 55 games in the NBA, and I'm the number 2 seed in the East, or the number 3 seed, and this is what I got to face in the first round. However, having said that, I can't put total faith in them because I just don't believe that Embiid and, for that matter, Paul George can stay healthy after that first round when you've got to play every other day for about a month and a half or 2 months to make it to the NBA Finals. So that's my position. I don't think they can do it, but boy, in that first round, if I looked up and it was the Knicks versus the Sixers in that first round, I'd be scared to death if I was the New York Knicks.
Some fun ones tonight. Sixers Heat, 7 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN. Boston plays Atlanta. So if Boston can beat Atlanta and Philadelphia beats Miami, Philly would leapfrog out of the play-in and get themselves in position to get the 6 or the 5. And then the late one tonight, Detroit plays Oklahoma City. Now, it's a shame Detroit is shorthanded, but they are the 2 number 1 seeds, and they will face each other tonight. And, of course, the Sixers-Heat game you can listen to right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. Phil's off to a slow start. Sixers trying to turn the corner. Down the stretch they come. We'll talk about it with Mike on Wednesday. Take care, bud.
All right, Mike, we'll see you down the road. Thank you.
All right, there's Mike McGarry for the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. You can check out all his coverage at thepressofac.com. And, of course, he's back on Wednesday looking at everything that's happening around town. The Nuggets coming up at 3 o'clock today, a little early Nugs. Plus, coming up at 4 o'clock today, Geoff Mosher for today's Football at 4 has a lot to discuss regarding one A.J. Brown. Howie Roseman, he commented on him today, not once, but twice, but 3 times, but 4 times. He said A.J. Brown is a Philadelphia Eagle. Okay, what does that mean? Well, we'll talk with Moshe a little bit later on. And the Flyers, they are 8-1-1 in their last 10. They beat the Dallas Stars last night. Now, Dallas is a legit team. That is a Stanley Cup contender. You could have been a contender. Well, the Flyers are trying to become a contender. They have added a very intriguing piece to the puzzle. We'll talk about it coming up with Kevin Durso tonight at 5:30. Jeff Kerr live from Citizens Bank Park. Paul Hudrick is in the house today. We got a fun show for you. And text board. The White Horse RV text board has been blowing up today. We will get into that. Plus, the people watching on YouTube. You guys have been commenting up a storm over there. We'll try to put some of the comments up on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know. If you're watching on the X platform, let us know. If you're listening on the radio, 609-403-0973. Hit us up in a text. We'll be back and read and react to your text messages next. All right, 251. A lot of text messages on the White Horse RV text board. Durso at 5:30 tonight. Talk a little Flyers. Porter Martone will make his debut. Sounds like tomorrow. How about that? When was the last time you were excited to see a Flyers player make his debut? I mean, Kickoff probably, but at this stage of the season where they actually call a guy or sign a guy right into the lineup, help us out right now. Now, Geoff is watching on YouTube. He says, I would be shocked if the Flyers make the playoffs. He says the magic carpet ride will end soon. They've won 8 out of the last 10, including a win over the Stars last night, which was awesome. It was a fun game. Overtime winner. You had a hat trick on Saturday from Tippett. It's been fun. It's been a fun little ride. Is the magic carpet ride ready to end, though? What do you think?
I think it depends on how bad they want it.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's how bad they want it.
Well, no, because some of these
actually,
games,
I would disagree with you here.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of teams in front of them still. So it doesn't matter
Sure.
how bad they want it if the other teams in front of them want
Keep
it just
winning.
as bad as they do. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. How bad they want it is a pretty generalized
Well,
thing.
some of these
Are they good
games-
enough to win? They have big games still coming up. Are we turning the page to say this team has turned the page from mediocre team to no, good team? Tocchet said it after the game last night. We were the better team. That Dallas team is 44-18.
They're a stacked team, Dallas.
And Tocchet said we were the better team. So are we at the point of the season where your guys have taken that step and elevated to where they are better than the teams they're going to start playing? They have a game with the Islanders this weekend. They got another game with Detroit coming up. So is it at the point where 74 games into the season, they've become the better team than the teams they're about to face? I think that's an interesting conversation. And now all of a sudden you're going to try to shoehorn Porter Martone into the lineup. Where does he fit in? I think that's going to be a very interesting challenge. Because now you're starting to play well, and you're saying, here's a kid who hasn't practiced with us ever, and we're just going to say, is he a first liner? Is he a second line guy? I mean, how do they incorporate a player of that? And by the way, it's a very talented player, but not a lot of precedent for this. Not a lot of precedent for this. 609-403-0973. Mike, the Flyers are playing playoff hockey right now. They're playing every other night, and they got to win most of their games. Yeah, well, guess what? Tomorrow night you can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN, because tomorrow night, big one. They're playing the Capitals tomorrow, who are literally scratching their back right behind them in the standings. So you got Capitals tomorrow, and then every other night, just like you said on the text board, on the White Horse RV text board. Washington, playoff matchup. Detroit, playoff matchup. Islanders, playoff matchup. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Boston. Jersey, get a little break there. Detroit again. Then Winnipeg, Carolina, and Montreal to close out the season. The one big thing is the last games of the year, Monday, Tuesday, they are back-to-backs. They are the only back-to-backs the Flyers have the rest of the way. When we come back, will we get a Flyers nugget from one Nick Earnshaw? Stick around, find out. 3 o'clock, Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Got a lot happening on this Monday edition. Flyers continue to rock and roll. Sixers with a big win. They'll play the Heat tonight. Phillies struggling along. Got A.J. Brown news on the way as well. And don't forget, starting Wednesday, it's your first chance to enter to win an opportunity to see the Eagles play at Lincoln Financial Field. We'll have a pair of tickets, club box seats for a game at the Link this year, overnight stay at Ocean Casino Resort, all sorts of great concert tickets for shows at Ocean this year, like Lenny Kravitz, who takes the stage on May 16th, Saturday, May 16th, at Ocean Casino's Ovation Hall. Get your tickets now at oceanac.com. Also coming to Ovation Hall will be Aaron Lewis, the founder of Stain. That's on Friday, April 17th. That's before the draft, so you won't win those tickets. But you can go see Aaron Lewis along with comedian Tony Hinchcliffe on April 24th. He's from the roast of the Tom Brady. He's been on tours with Joe Rogan. Tickets are available at theoceanac.com. But we're going to have tickets to all sorts of shows at Ocean Casino Resort, overnight stays. But the big prize, someone's walking away with Eagles Club Box tickets. Right now it's time for the Nuggets. Nick Earnshaw is host of Nick's Nuggets. He is the producer of the Locker Room Weekends on 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, he joins us each and every day. We got early nugs today on the Sports Bash. A little early nugs.
Little early nugget for everybody out there today. A lot of nuggets happening over the weekend. I mean, my goodness. How about UConn and Duke yesterday? I mean, that was unreal.
I was in the car last night when that happened. So I heard the radio call on Westwood One here on 97.3 ESPN. So I was in the car, heard the call, and then I went to go pick up dinner, and they had it on in the place that I was at, so I got to see it right after the call on the radio. And I didn't realize how far out that shot was from listening to it. I knew it was far, but I didn't realize how far until I heard it on the radio, then went into the place and saw it.
No, it was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it was unbelievable. So I saw that on my phone while being at the barn. Down at the barn, I was Nicky lower level yesterday, not in the nosebleeds, at the Flyers game. I'll tell you what, that place was popping. It was electric in the barn yesterday for the Flyers, getting the OT win. Trevor Zegras, John Campbell, Big Dom in the building. I mean, there was some juice yesterday at the Xfinity Mobile Arena.
Who do you think you are going, Nicky, no nosebleeds?
I know. Listen, the tickets were given to me, and I'm not going to pass them up. So, I'll take a lower level if I get the chance. I know. Listen, it doesn't go along with the nickname. I know. I understand that. But, I got an opportunity there. I had an opportunity to go lower level. I mean, it was pretty cool.
All right. Well,
it's no nosebleed, I'll tell you that.
We got Islanders will end the Flyers season on Friday. Go Isles. We got Islanders fans trying to check in here. How about this? Talking with a mic drop speech after yesterday's game. Now, I heard the speech. He said after the game, we were the better team. We were the better team. And that's a team in Dallas that many people think can win a cup.
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you what, I saw that speech on social media today. I was like, Talk, fire me up. I know Schweiner was going nuts about that speech.
I know. And then, of course, I gave him the little Schweiner because Schweiner's been asking me who's in a better spot, the Flyers or the Sixers. I don't know. Whose win was bigger this weekend? The Sixer win in Charlotte or the Flyers win against Dallas?
That's tough, man. That's tough. I'm going to go Sixers. I think the Sixers over Charlotte proved something about this team. But so did the Stars win. I mean, so did beating the Stars yesterday. I was there. It was electric. I mean, it's a toss-up either way. But I think the Sixers, because they got to get the seeding and they own the tiebreaker over Charlotte now for, where they either the play-in or in the 5 or 6 spot.
Hey, listen, they were both huge wins. I will say this. The Sixer win, they're already in the playoffs. That put them in better position in the playoffs. The Flyers win, they still aren't in the playoffs yet. So I'm going to go that Sixer win was a little bigger.
Yeah, you own the tiebreaker over Charlotte. They're now in the 10th spot. They're tied with Miami, who the Sixers face tonight. And guess what? That's where we're going to start nugget number 1 with the Philadelphia 76ers. They are on the road in Miami tonight. Half game behind Atlanta. A whole game behind Toronto for the 5 seed. Half game being the 6th spot for Atlanta. They are in the 7th spot by themselves at the moment. Orlando 2 back them right now. So they've been scaling back a little bit as well. Man, oh man. I'll tell you what. I want to ask you, Mike. I'm buying in. And I asked this over the weekend. Schweiner and I got into it a little bit. Buying into the Sixers hype, because guess what? All you can ask for is a healthy roster going into the postseason. I'm buying in. If they're healthy, I think they got a shot. That's all you can ask for if you are a Sixers fan. You know what? Get them there. Here we are. The plan worked perfectly. The blessing in disguise of the 25-game suspension from Paul George. I'll tell you what, I'm in. I've been in, and I think you should be too.
Well, do I think they're going to the finals? No. Do I think they're the favorite? No. Do I think they can be dangerous? Sure. So, yeah, I'll buy into that. I don't know if – now, listen.
What's the ceiling? If you're sitting there, what's the ceiling and what's the floor for this team?
Well, the ceiling is they can go to the NBA Finals. They have the talent to go there.
Okay.
Are they going to be healthy? Now, as you kind of said, this might not have been the plan, but they got everybody back playing together for at least the final stretch of games here, and it's more than you could have asked in any other season. It seems like in any other year, they have never had the 5 starters playing together. Now, we all know health is the biggest problem here. Now, if this team got to play 65 games together, they would have had a much higher ceiling. But their ceiling is, if they're all playing together, healthy, and it meshes, they have the talent to go to the finals. That being said, do I expect them to get out of the first round? Because they're going to probably be an underdog in their opening round. You're going to play either the Knicks or you're going to play the Cavs. It seems likely that you'll be out of – now, I guess you could be the 7th seed if you end up in the play-in, and if you win and become the 7, then you would play Boston. Not ideal. And if you lost and then end up getting in as the 8, you would play Detroit. None of those matchups, Detroit, Boston, New York, or Cleveland, are you going to be the favorite in. So you're going to have to pull an upset to get out of the first round.
Oh, they're not going to be favored in any series, to be honest. I mean, they're just not. I mean, the lower seed, the health thing, et cetera, et cetera. But, man, I like the way they match up against the Knicks. They've beaten the Knicks in the Garden twice this year.
I'm not saying
Cleveland,
that.
I like the matchup.
I'm not saying there's the matchups that you like better than others. I'm just saying, to say that you're going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals or the Finals, you're not even going to be the favorite in the first round. So what's the ceiling? Sure. They would have to pull off 3 upsets to get to the finals. I don't see it likely, but their ceiling is if they're healthy, they could do it. That's where I would be there. You hear me? No, we lost you. All right. Well, are you buying into the Sixers? I'm not buying in that I'm going to get excited about what they can do or where they can go. What I'm buying into is I can at least get into a series and give me something to look forward to. Give me something to kind of like invest in. Now, if they end up getting bounced in the first round, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm not going to be surprised if they get knocked out in the first round. But unlike last year, where they basically stunk up, I labeled last year as the worst season in the history of the franchise. This year, if they make the playoffs and all 5 guys are healthy, yes, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I think you have to be intrigued. They're a dark horse. They are a clear dark horse. If they get in healthy with where they're at right now, they get into the postseason. I give them a shot against the Knicks. I give them a shot against anybody, to be honest, to get to the Eastern Conference Finals or to get to the NBA Finals. Their ceiling, finals. Floor, I think they can win a series, but it's all dependent on the health. That's the obvious thing here. We all know it's all right. Can they get through a first-round series relatively healthy? Can they get through a second-round series healthy? Because we know they could probably win it. They're that good, and that's a game against Charlotte over the weekend that they lose time again.
Yeah, McGarry brought that up earlier in the show. It's that he's like, I got one eye open, not two, one.
So I got one eye open for the Sixers. Come on, man. Come on.
Cole from LBI texted in and says, Nikki, nice seats.
It was. They were nice seats. They were beautiful seats. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. But, there's just something about the nosebleeds, man, that are just, you just feel it different up there. It's just so, I enjoy sitting in the nosebleeds more so. But, I'm not going to turn down some tickets,
Listen, when we used to go back when I first started to go to spring training. This is 20 years ago. We actually used to stay in Tampa instead of Clearwater.
Okay.
We didn't know any better, so we stayed in Tampa, and we would go to a Lightning game all the time. We would just say, hey, we'll go to a Lightning game. And we would go up to the ticket window and say, give me the worst seat in the building. Like, give me the cheapest ticket you got. And we would literally be up with our backs up against the wall in that place.
Yeah, listen. There's no better. And I could send any picture to my family group chat. And the family, no matter where I'm sitting, there could be a pole in front of me. And my dad will go, those are great seats. No, it doesn't matter where I'm sitting. Those are great seats.
Oh, that's like
because I'm there.
I went to a game at the old Boston Garden, the original Boston Garden. And Charles Barkley was playing for the Suns. It was Celtics Suns, just like Larry Bird and and I literally had a seat, and there was the pillar was right in front of me. I was literally the guy going like this, changing the sides of the pillar to go see the action. It was great. I loved every minute of it.
Oh, you got to experience that at least once in your life. You got to have the view obstructed. Like I've sat at CBP. I've sat like down the pole, down the line, the foul pole right in my way. Could not see the batter. Had to go do the bob and weave every at bat.
See, I think at Citizens Bank Park, though, that's unacceptable. These new ballparks, you can't do it. Back in the day, you atoned for that.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from, but where are you supposed to put the foul pole?
You put the pole there. You don't put seats that are blocked by the pole.
Well, they're cheaper. That's how you get in the building.
Pass.
More affordable. I've done it. Listen, it's rough. I did it for a Yankees-Phillies game a few years back. Was directly behind the foul pole.
In 1996, I can handle it. In 2026, pass.
Well, just ask. I mean, they're making plenty of changes to the ballpark anyway. I mean, why might as well make another one, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's move along. Nugget number 2. Brandon Graham put out an announcement today on his Instagram. I know you're big on the Instagram. Yes, no, maybe, Mike? I don't think you're that big on Instagram. You're more of an X guy. But anyway, Brandon Graham put out a Instagram story, and the story read, it was all black and then in white letters, 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, press conference from Phoenix, Arizona on future plans. So, Mike, do we think he's going to make another retirement, or is he going to come back this time around?
I would imagine this one is him retiring again, but I thought about that today. Like, is he going to go through the whole thing again but why would you have something – why would you have another whole thing for that a second time?
I feel like he's coming back. I feel like he'll come back for one more year. I think that's what the announcement's going to be. Because also, it's not in Philly. It's in Phoenix. So
it could be for – well, then if it's – I didn't know that. I did see he was having something tomorrow, but this would tell me this is for something different, like maybe a charity thing, maybe something. Yeah.
Yeah, but he specifically said 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, press conference from Phoenix, Arizona on future plans.
Yeah, my future plan for the Brandon Graham Foundation. We're gonna have we're gonna set up a golf tournament out here or something to that. Especially if it's out there in Phoenix, probably sounds like some sort of like golf tournament or something like that.
I'll tell you what. I don't know if I can be as emotional for the second go around of a retirement press conference. Like the first one, I mean, I had some. There was juice to that. That's why I was like, just stay retired, Brandon. We already went through all this. Emotion, going through the glory days, and then he comes back, and they had the commercials already for him. all those commercials. What are you doing in retirement, Brandon? And they kept airing after he came back for a little while. Because, I mean, what do you do? The guy came back. You had this commercial. How long are you going to run it for? You didn't think there was going to be really an end date to it. And he comes back right away. I can't do the second press conference. You can't cry the second time you retire. I don't think you can. I don't think it's a violation.
I agree. At the second one, you're laughing. This time, it's for real. I'm really done this time. It's not the whole emotional thing.
Nah, you can't have the roller coaster like Kelsey crying, everybody there. You get the whole team there, everyone who's helped them, the high school coaches there. You can't do that again. I mean, Brett Favre retired 18 times. I mean, it's just too much. If you're going to retire 3 or 4 times or a second time, just send out a press release and call it a day.
Yep. I would say if he was retiring, it would probably be not the big pomp and circumstance.
No, I think he'll be back next year. I really do. I think he's going to be back. All right. Something that is probably not coming back is the Philadelphia Wings.
Yeah,
I know our guy Alex Berardis, big lacrosse guy. The Philadelphia Wings are going defunct, ending ceasing operations. Mike Gill. So unfortunate. Now, did I ever get to a Wings game? No. Do I wish I did? Yes. So I just like going to do events. But listen, they're gone. They came out with a press release today, put it out on social media and I'll just read part of it. Following 2025-2026 season, we have made the decision to cease operations of the Philadelphia Wings franchise under the Comcast Spectacor portfolio. This was not an easy conclusion to reach, and it is one we considered with great care.
I got to say, I've never been to a Wings game, but I do know a funny story about a friend of mine. It was a girl who went on a date with somebody, and the guy took her to a Wings game. And it was a blind date. She had never met the guy before. And she met him at the arena, and she said when she got to the arena, the gentleman had a shirt on that said Big Daddy on it. And she said the gentleman was the kind of guy that should have a shirt that said Big Daddy on it. And she said, we're at the Wings game, and it was a tight fit in those seats. And she said, so I'll never go back to a Wings game.
Ruined their experience, you know? But yeah, it's unfortunate, man. Like, you've seen the Soul go down. You saw Atlantic City, the Blackjacks. I mean, the whole Arena Football League, unfortunately. I know there was discussion over the weekend, and I kind of sparked it about the River Sharks. You know, you went surf, I went River Sharks. I grew up closer to Camden, going more so to those games. I did go to a surf game when I was younger, but went to a ton of Camden River Sharks games. These minor league, these semi-professional, I mean, NLL is professional lacrosse, but these smaller organizations, man, it's tough right now.
Yeah, I know, the surf had been gone here for years, and there's always been some murmurs and whispers, but it's hard to, that whole stadium situation is another problem. They don't have lights over there. And, so that's why the surf haven't come back. And anybody who has to come to that ballpark, they need to put a ton of money into that ballpark, but there's no reason to put a lot of money in the ballpark because you don't see the return on investment from putting the money into the ballpark. Yeah,
I mean, that was Campbell's Field in Camden, right? Like, they tore that down. They actually redid it now and gave it to Rutgers. So it's like all turf fields over there now. But yeah, the River Sharks kind of same deal, right? They went defunct about in 2015-ish. And, it didn't last. Like, this was like minor league baseball in the 90s and semi-pro baseball in the 90s, early 2000s. Very popular, but it kind of dipped off after a while, especially after 2008, etc. But the one team that has made it work is the Banana Ball, the Savannah Bananas. They're the one team semi-professionally, but they're kind of an experience in a show, not necessarily real baseball. It's Banana Ball that is popular now.
Yeah, that thing's getting real popular. In fact, it's funny. Right when this started happening, I said, I think somebody could really make out if they created like a Banana Ball for like Little League.
Yeah.
Little League, whatever, Babe Ruth, the rec league level, create a Banana Ball type of league. And these kids, they love it, man. I went to a Phillies game, the spring training game. Oh, my God. I must have saw 100 Savannah Banana jerseys.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. It's just a different take on the game, and they made it their own, did their own thing with it, and it's been very successful in today's day and age. The semi-pros, unfortunately, are just not as popular as they once were.
No, and it's a tough way to make money, because
Yep.
when you go to those things, you're going with the thought that you're not paying a lot of money. It's a
Sure.
low-cost family thing.
Sure.
I've been to a ton of minor league games.
Same.
When my baseball team goes to Altoona, I've gone out and seen the Curve play. That's a great stadium. I've seen the Curve play many a times. In fact, it's funny. I was doing some research last night. I looked to see where our tournament dates are, and I've already looked at one of the cities we could be playing in. And if we're there at this particular date, the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs will be playing right there up the road in the AAA against the AAA team in that area. So I've already done the research. I always look for the minor league thing that's around there.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and I go down to Florida every year, and there's a minor league team there, and I go down usually the same time every year to visit some family around the Fort Myers area, and there's an affiliate, I believe, of the Twins that plays around there. I forget if it's high A. I think it's high A ball, and I think it's the affiliate of the Twins. They're never home when I'm down there. They're always on the road, so I'm hoping this year I get down there, I get to see little minor league baseball action down in Florida. So
Always fun. Always fun.
All right, Mike. That's a 3-pack of nuggets. I will add this bonus nugget before I get out of here, though. Torts, he's back, by the way.
I saw that, and I was like, I was like, how many? There's only like 8 games left in the season.
I know.
And I'm thinking to myself, where is Las Vegas in the standings that they decided to make a move of that magnitude at this stage of the game? And I said, look, they're actually in the playoffs right now. So John Tortorella, for those of you who don't know, John Tortorella is back. He got hired last night to take over the Vegas Golden Knights, who are in the 3rd seed in the Pacific.
Yep.
So he's going to be in the playoffs, it looks like.
Yeah, he's going to be coaching playoff hockey. Who would have thought? I mean, that's just nuts. Like the fact that there's only a couple of games left in the season, they're making a coaching change heading into the postseason to go on a run. They needed a spark, I guess. I don't know.
Now, real quick, someone texted in, if the Surf was affiliated with the Phillies like the Blue Calls were, it would do good. The problem with that is the Surf could not be an affiliated team because of the Phillies. The Phillies would block them from joining, say, the Yankees or the Mets or anybody, because there's a 100-mile radius that you can't have an affiliated team unless the major league team approves it, and the Phillies would not approve an affiliated team because you're right. If it was an affiliated team, it probably would do much better, and then the Phillies would say, well, that might hurt our ability to draw fans.
Yep, exactly. All right, Mike. Little 3-pack plus a bonus nugget for you today.
There you go. A little bonus nugget. I had a lot of nuggets. Porter Martone, by the way. Where's that nugget?
See, he was in the building last night.
I thought that would have been nugget number 1 today.
Yeah. Listen, he's going to probably play Tuesday.
Yeah.
It was down at the gate. We saw him up in the, you could see him in the suite that they were in. Jahad Campbell was there last night. Big Dom. I mean, it was a who's who. I told you the barn was popping last night.
All right, well, I got a nugget coming up on the other side. It is the Phillies lineup, which is dropped for tonight's game. I'll give you that. One key player is not in the lineup tonight, possibly 2. There are actually 2 players not in the lineup today. I'll tell you who they are coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 3:30. Let's take a look at the Phillies lineup. By the way, this hour is brought to you by Broadleaf's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing service, and installation for generations. Call 609-390-3907. Phillies lineup is out. It does have a lot of changes in it tonight. I say a lot of changes. I mean, there's some key guys not in the lineup tonight. And I already see the reaction on social media asking questions. Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Bohm, Garcia, Sosa, Kemp, Marsh, Marchand. Walker is pitching tonight. They're going to face a left-hander tonight who they have never seen before. So no Stott, no Real Muto, and no Crawford. You're going to get Marsh in center field tonight. Marchand, a switch hitter, he'll catch tonight. And then you got Sosa playing second base, so no Stott tonight because they're facing a lefty. But the question is, you got Marsh in center against a lefty rather than Crawford in center against the lefty. Now, Crawford has hit lefties well at the minor league level. We know Marsh has not hit lefties well at the major league level. Now, if you listened to our podcast earlier today, the live show called Phillies Fastball, every day at noon, you can check that out on social media on the X platform with Jeff Kerr, myself, and Oscar Budjin, who is the Spanish voice of the Philadelphia Phillies. Jeff told us that Real Muto and Crawford would be out of the lineup today. So why is Marsh in the lineup and Crawford out? I'm not a fan of that decision. This kid hit lefties in the minor leagues. You got to come out firing to see. Now, they have faced lefties the last 2 days. So you can say, hey, listen, he did face lefties the last 2 days. We're just giving him the day off. And I think that's more of what this is. I think this is more they're giving him the day off today, which I don't think he needs the day off today, considering they had a day off on Friday and they have another day off coming up on Thursday. So I don't like this move of them putting him on the bench. If you're playing and you're the everyday center fielder, you're the everyday center fielder. But they're playing Marsh today and Crawford's sitting. And I'm not a big fan of that decision early. Now, the Stott thing, he's a lefty. Sosa's the righty. They're facing a left-handed pitcher. Sosa starts. And Kemp is in left because of the same thing. Now, I got no problem with Real Muto sitting today. Real Muto is a stain to this offense right now. He is brutal offensively. And I, quite frankly, hope that this is finally the year that they sit Real Muto a little bit more often, where he only plays about 120 games, maybe 115 games, instead of what he normally plays. They got to get Marchand more at bats here. By the way, the last 2 days for Crawford against left-handed pitching, he was 1 for 5. His one hit was an infield little single. He kind of a swinging Rojas, we'll call it. He had a Rojas single. So it's not like he came out and lit the left-handers up, but I don't think that's why he's not playing today. He did strike out twice in the game yesterday. He was 1 for 3 with 2 strikeouts.
I hate this decision to put Crawford on the bench for 2 reasons. One, the point that you brought up about the fact that you have days off coming up. He doesn't need a day off. You have built-in days off in the schedule. You're not in the middle of like a 20-day marathon or something. 2, the pitcher who's pitching tonight, his name is Foster Griffin. He has not pitched at the major league level since 2022. What are you afraid of?
So he's like the pitcher that Harper faced in the WBC?
Yes. The equivalent.
I think this is more they're giving him a day off.
It's stupid.
I agree. There's no reason that your starting center fielder needs a day off the first week of the season. If anything, you want him to play and get the feel of big league baseball and play every single day. You were already off on Friday. I'm pretty sure they're off again Thursday this week.
Yes.
I think they are. So he needs to be off on Monday and then again on Thursday after he was already off on Friday. It's asinine.
Also, if you're going to bench him against a lefty, if you told me Chris Sale, okay, I get it. Max Fried, sure. But not a guy who has a pitch in the major leagues in 3 years.
Listen, maybe this was a way to say, hey, we want to get him rest, and the lefty's not a tough lefty, so we'll let Marsh face that guy. I don't know. No, I'm not going to sit here
Stop trying to rationalize
it. But for the most part, the Phillies need to find ways to score runs, and I think having Crawford in that 9-hole spot is a great way to try to get them to generate some runs with his speed at the bottom of the lineup for the guys at the top of the lineup to drive him home and get a little stuff going here.
Right. Now you got the dud Marchand at the bottom of the lineup.
I don't have a problem with Marchand. Everybody,
I don't like him in that spot in the lineup.
I don't like him in the 9-hole either. But I don't think he's a dud. I actually think Marchand, if given the opportunity to play a little bit more, could actually handle himself. In fact, that's why I said I would have let Real Muto walk. Marchand is as good defensively pop time throwing guys out as Real Muto is at this stage. I think if Marchand played every day, he'd probably hit 240 with probably about 10 to 12 home runs, which is about what JT Real Muto you're hoping gives you. So for a lot less money, for $15 million less, I could have had Marchand pretty much do what Real Muto was going to do offensively and give you possibly more defensively.
Maybe. I just don't like him in the 9-hole. If you told me he was 7 or 8, I'd be fine with it. But the 9-hole should be, with this lineup, like a Sosa or a Marsh.
Say again?
I don't like him in the 9 spot. If he was 7 or 8,
yeah. No, I mean,
I'd be fine with it. But if you put Sosa or Marsh in that 9 spot, now you're continuing the continuity of the concept of what Crawford is in the lineup.
Yeah, I definitely, look, they got Sosa, hitting 6 today? Is that where he's at?
He's hitting 6.
Yeah, he's behind Garcia. So you got Sosa. Marchand, of this group of guys, is probably the weakest. Now, he will hit right-handed tonight. I think he's a better right-handed hitter than he is a left-handed hitter.
He's got more pop there, yeah.
So this is the spot for Marchand, no question. But I think Marchand should get more opportunities against left-handed pitchers. Now, remember, he's a switch hitter. You can play him pretty much whatever, but I think he's a better right-handed hitter. So you have Marchand out there. You've got to limit the amount of times that JT's going out there. You can't have a aging JT slowing down JT get to the finish line and not be, because he played 145 games when you've won 96 of them.
Right. You got to get JT on that 130 game plan now.
That would be ideal. I would say JT, I would pull him back to 120, 115. That to me, I think, Marchand played a bunch the one year when JT got hurt. A couple of years ago.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
He had to play a couple of years ago when JT got hurt. Now, I don't think Marchand's, some budding superstar, but I definitely think he could hit 240. He's got a little bit of pop. The problem with the backup catcher, especially in Philadelphia, is he never plays. So you're asking him to play once every 2 to 3 weeks, and if he goes 0 for 4 in the 2 games that he plays, well, it's hard when you have such limited at-bats to have a batting average to make fans say, this guy's hitting 120. Well, he's only batted 9 times.
So the 2 seasons he has played the most number of games. In 2021, he played 20 games that year. Last year,
I would imagine, though, go ahead.
And last year he played 42.
The one in 2021, when he played 21 games, I think they were consecutively. He was playing pretty much every day.
Correct.
Because of an injury.
Right.
So even though 20 games is not a great sample size.
I think that was the year Real Muto with the hamstring.
Yeah, Real Muto got hurt, and then Marchand actually had to come up and play pretty much daily.
Right. That stretch, he batted 231, not good on base percentage, 286, had 1 homer, 4 RBI. Last year in 42 games, he had 2 home runs, 13 RBI, same on base percentage, lower batting average. So, he'll give you something every once in a blue moon.
Yeah,
he's there for his defense.
He's there for his defense, much like Real Muto. We actually talked about this on the Phillies Fastball podcast today, which is Real Muto. They brought him back because of his relationship with the pitching staff. And this team is built around the pitching, and they did not want to lose the key to all that by turning it over to somebody who is a first-time starter. Now, they probably would have brought in another catcher, and Marchand wouldn't have been the everyday catcher. But this is where for $15 million, to which I said, for $15 million, you got to do more than just push the button on your pad to the speaker in the guy's hat. You got to be able to do something with this, help this offense out. But listen, I'm looking at this offense today, and I wonder why you would sit Crawford today. That would be my number one. I don't like that one. The rest of the stuff I don't have a problem with. Marchand catching today, 0 issue. Now, Kemp playing in the outfield, That might be something that you're going to have to start looking at. If his defense continues, his defense this weekend was worse than anything Castellanos gave you.
Well, it's also, I go think in my mind back to last year. Remember they put Sosa in left field for a game, and he had that one good play, that one not so good play, and then they never put him back out there again, right? And I just kept going back to, you're telling me that Sosa in left field would have been better than this schlep?
That's a great point, is that you can't tell me the athleticism of Sosa wouldn't have been more to work with in left field than Kemp. Now, I contend, and I said this many times, every rep this spring for Kemp should have been in left field. Every single inning that he played in spring training, every one of them should have been as a left fielder. Not at second base, not at third base, not at first base, left field. He should have taken every single inning that he was in the lineup out in left field, because that is where he needs to learn how to see the angles of the ball, see the ball coming off the bat, the ball carrying off the wall, all of that stuff. He knows how to play first base. He knows how to play third base. And guess what? How many times is Otto Kemp really going to play first or third base this year? And if you have to ask him to do it 10 times, I think he can dust off the first baseman and figure out how to catch a throw from the third baseman.
Right.
But he's never played left field before. These idiots, they did this before, by the way. Cody Ashe, years ago, he was playing third base. You knew he was going to left field. You knew it. And in spring training, they never had him play the outfield at all. So then, when they needed to move him to left field, what did they have to do? They had to send him to AAA in the middle of the year to go learn how to play left field. In the middle of the year? Are you kidding me? And now they do the same thing with this poor Kemp kid where, one day he's playing left field in spring training, then he's playing first base. I mean, that's ridiculous. That is a complete mess.
And this goes back to the whole complaints that we had in the offseason, which is the Phillies can keep telling us that it's not the same team. But when you bring back this roster, the front office is telling you that we're satisfied with Otto Kemp. We're good enough with this team in terms of starters and bench players. But the rest of us know, yeah, it really isn't good enough, but you guys are trying to convince us it is.
609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. That's on the text board. You can get in on the White Horse RV text board. Let us know thoughts on the Phillies lineup today. And listen, it's one game. It's early in the season. I don't need anybody saying this, that, or the other thing. I mean, they could lose tonight and end up going on a 6 out of 8 run, and the next thing you know, they're right back in this. But I definitely think that every time and every decision that this Phillies team starts to make is now going to be way under the microscope. Cole from LBI says it's wild Phillies fans are turning on Harper. The guy's a gamer. Fans should be upset with Dombrowski for neglecting a right-handed power bat for 3 seasons to protect Harbor and or Schwarber. Listen, Cole, you're not wrong about that. I will say 2 things. He's a gamer. I think Harper is really living off of the Bedlam at the Bank, which was in 2022. Give me a moment that you can just rattle off and say he's a gamer, because that game. Since 2022, there hasn't been a lot of big moments for Harper. Now, that being said, the right-handed power bat plays here, and I definitely understand where you're coming from, Cole, but I just don't know where this right-handed power bat is. That's the problem. They need something that's not available. So I agree, that's his job to go find it. It's his job to get creative. It's his job to go get it. But from the guys who were free agents and the players that got traded this offseason or signed, moved elsewhere, which of them was a right-handed bat that you said, the Phillies could have had that guy?
Well, if we're just taking out money and all the other conversations, you could have made an argument. For example, you could have signed Eugenio Suarez and traded Alec Bohm. There's always that conversation that was had. There was a guy like Pete Alonso. There was the whole Bryce Harper told the Phillies they should sign Pete Alonso a couple of years ago. They didn't. He's now in Orioles. So if we were just saying money aside, there is a scenario where they could have maybe signed one of those two guys.
Could have got Suarez, absolutely. Now, problem with Suarez was you have a guy that is signed to play third base. So you're right. You could have signed him and then moved Bohm. Definitely agree with that. Now, the flip side of that could be, Suarez is a guy who strikes out a ton.
Not great. He's not bad defensively. He's just not efficient. Let's put it that way.
And to put it this way, he's worse than Bohm.
Yes.
Defensively. But I have no problem saying that was one right-handed bat. Now, I know it's early. He's hitting 167. He has struck out 5 times in 3 games. But my point is, we're judging the Phillies on 3 games. And Suarez is an older guy. He's 34 years old? When does his magic power, which kind of came out of nowhere all of a sudden, who had heard of Eugenio Suarez 3-4 years ago?
He had been kind of like lingering around in mediocrity for a while. He would have
mediocrity.
He would have like 1 year where he has some pop, another year where he have less pop. He's never really been like a consistent bopper.
I mean, he had 49 last year. That came out of right field.
Right.
And then he had 36,
high,
he had 30, he had 22, 31. Those numbers are pretty big.
It was up and down. I was like,
Well, 30's pretty, those are pretty big. But
yeah.
On base, 255, 320, 319, 322, and he strikes out 200, 170, 190.
He's a massive strikeout machine.
Correct. So he's the kind of guy that I think Philly fans would probably got tired of pretty quickly.
And then the other guy I mentioned was Pete Alonso, who signed with the Orioles.
Pete Alonso, he would be a right-handed bat that Cole's talking about. The problem with him, obviously, is he plays first base, and your key guy that gets all the money also plays first base. Now, you could say Harper could have gone back to the outfield. At this point, I just don't think the Phillies want him to go play in the outfield. He had the elbow problem. He's been hurt a couple different times. Alonso, by the way, he's gotten off to a solid start. He has a home run. He's hitting 270 on base, 385. Would Alonso look great right behind him? I'm sure he would. Enough so that I'm sure Bryce Harper would have said, I'll go play the outfield if I have to. But
exactly.
I'm not so sure he was all that excited about. Or I don't think the team.
I think the team, yeah. Harper has come out and said multiple times that he'd be willing to play another position. But Harper might be willing. But as you said, the team might look at him and they'd be like, dude, you may think you can still do it.
Hey, don't forget this Friday, stop out and see us. We'll be at Ventnor Social, Ventnor Avenue in Ventnor. Ventnor Social, it is a Phillies day game. We're going to be watching the Phillies. They are on the road, and it is the Rockies home opener. That's why it's a Friday afternoon game. I was wondering, why are the Phillies playing Friday afternoon? Well, it is the home opener in Colorado for the Rockies. So the Phillies day game parties begin. We'll be at Ventnor Social. Stop out. We'll have chances for you to win a trip to go see the Phillies play in Baltimore. All you got to do is stop out. We'll have a drop box there. And every time we're at Ventnor Social, all summer long, up until the Phillies game in Baltimore, you can come out. You get multiple entries. You come out this Friday, put your name in the box. That's an entry. Come out the next time we're at Ventnor Social, put your name in the box. That's an entry. So you can get multiple entries, and I'll tell you all the dates will be there. And at the last one before the Phillies play in Baltimore, I'll give you the date. We'll pick out the winner, and someone's going to go to see the Phillies play in Baltimore against the Orioles. When we come back, I got details on our draft party and how you can start entering. It's all this week on the Sports Bash. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. Don't forget, you can watch the show on the 97.3 ESPN YouTube channel and on the X platform at 973 ESPN at Mike Gill Show. We're going to be live at Ventnor Social this Friday. Phillies Rockies stop out, enter to win a trip to go see the Phillies play in Baltimore against the Orioles. Also, our next broadcast from Ventnor Social will be on Thursday, April 30th for a 105 game against the Giants. Wednesday, May 20th will be a 105 game against the Reds. Thursday, June 4th, a 105 game against the Padres. And on Wednesday, July 29th, that is when we will give away the bus trip to Baltimore for the Phillies and the Orioles. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 chances to come on out. You can get up to 4 entries to win the trip. Football at 4 powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Don't forget our 2026 Eagles Draft Party will be live at the Balcony Bar at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. We will be there on Thursday, April 23rd. The first chance for you to enter to be there is on Wednesday's show. Listen for your chance to enter coming up on Wednesday's show. We'll be live at the Balcony Bar at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. We're giving away a ton of great stuff, including Eagles tickets, club box seats. We'll be at Lincoln Financial Field for a game this season. We'll also have a ton of giveaways, including an overnight stay at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, concert tickets to shows at Ocean Casino, and more. It's all happening on April 23rd. We will be live at the Balcony Bar at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Football at 4, of course, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And Geoff Mosher is here today breaking it all down for us as we take a look at some of the key stories that are happening around the Eagles. Nick Sirianni speaking today, as did Howie Roseman this weekend. They are at the owners' meeting. By the way, the Eagles and Patriots have announced they will have joint practices this summer. That adds a little intrigue to this whole thing. Geoff Mosher is here, and one of the things Howie Roseman did say, A.J. Brown is a member of the Eagles. Did it make it feel like he's not going anywhere?
I think Howie's just trying to think of different ways to answer the same question. But certainly he knows that, the way you answer a question is going to get dissected. And if it's a little bit different, or even a lot, from how you might have answered it a month ago, especially in this case, then people are going to read into it. And, he obviously went from somebody who didn't want to give really good players like A.J. Brown away to someone who says that A.J. Brown is on the roster. So I still think, listen, I don't think this is a cut and dried situation. I think that Howie will only accept a good deal for A.J. Brown. That would be the only reason to trade him, is that he could, it's a deal that really works and he thinks is fair. So I think this is going to be a really interesting stare down, and it could go down, could go in past the draft, could go into training camp. It may never happen, to be honest with you. That's a possibility.
Well, and that's the big thing.
It always has been.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, Geoff. It's, he said today, and for the people listening out there, actually said it on Sunday. He says, I understand there's interest in the A.J. Brown story. Unfortunately, I don't have a home under a rock, but my answer to any question on A.J. Brown is that A.J. is a member of the Eagles. From my perspective, anything you ask me about A.J. Brown, I'm going to go right back to that answer. But I understand the interest. I put on TV, I see there's interest, but my answer is A.J. Brown is a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, to which everybody wants to kind of like break it down. Is he saying it like that's just his way of saying, hey, just hold on here? But, I mean, realistically, Geoff, we're at March 30th. He's got to go through April, May, 2 more months of potentially holding on to him before that June 1st date kicks in. So is there any date in there that you're like, he's probably changed his mind, he's not going to trade him?
No, I think it's hard. Putting the timetable on it is difficult because you just never know what's going to come. I mean, Howie could say, you know what, I've decided I don't have any offers that I like and I'm going to keep them. And then 2 days later, somebody unfortunately gets an injury in training camp, right? And all of a sudden they're willing to offer something for A.J. Brown that Howie can't refuse. And sometimes that's happened. We've seen that. We saw that happen with the way Carson Wentz became quarterback and Sam Bradford got traded. I really think that the issue here is just the competing interests. You have A.J. Brown who, although he has not come out and said it, I think you infer that he'd probably rather be somewhere else, but not anywhere else. I don't think the guy want to get traded to the Cleveland Browns, right? He clearly loves the Patriots. We know that. You have the Patriots who have added at wide receiver and definitely need more help there. But then you have the Eagles who it's not like this is not a situation where it's a player that they dislike or that they think they can't win with anymore or is such a distraction. So it's not a TO situation, So they're not going to, that goes back to they just don't want to give him away. They're about to unveil a new offense, and he could be a big part of it, and everything clicks. If it clicks correctly, he could be a huge part of it and go back to being a 1,400-yard receiver. And so why would you absolutely want to trade that unless you got the deal you were looking for. And I think that all those three moving parts, I guess, complicate making this thing more simpler than it could be if it was just straight up, I'll trade you for this.
Right. So but here we are, March 30th, Geoff. We don't think if the Eagles traded A.J. Brown, do we think it's a performance thing? Like that, hey, this guy has lost a step, or we want to move him before he loses that step?
No, I mean, I think that I think that would be a part of it. Otherwise, they would just shut it down and say, we'll never trade him at all, right? But you don't do that if you're the Eagles, especially who do good business. You do realize that there are financial positives to getting rid of A.J. Brown. Even if you took the big cap hit, or even if you did it before June 1st, going forward the following year, there would be some immense cash benefits to not having A.J. Brown, who has, a lot of money left on that deal, and as you just mentioned, gets older. And if you had enough draft compensation and you felt like you were going to get a really good receiver in the draft on top of what you already want, there would be impetus to go ahead and do it in that regard. So I don't think it would be performance-based because he's still a good player, but the Eagles are always thinking one step ahead, to your point.
Yeah, and listen, I know the wide receiver spot, as we've kind of talked a lot about, is, hey, 1 year you're a 1,200-yard guy, the next year you have fallen off the map, and I guess the Eagles have to try to decipher, when does that year come when he turns into a guy who's just not the same player anymore? Now, what are you getting for him? And we've kind of talked a little bit about, they seem to be in the right asking for a first and third now. But if he plays in Philadelphia and you want to trade him after another year here, you're not going to get the same compensation. So it feels like it's almost now or almost never if you want to get significant compensation for him.
Right. So that's where that's why Howie is smart to not just say, oh, this guy's amazing, I'll never trade him. Why would I do that? Because if you look at the way his contract is structured, Mike, in I think 2027, it jumps considerably to the point where almost like absurdly, because how they backload all these contracts with tons of money and option bonuses. It's to the point where it's pretty obvious, if you didn't know anything about how teams do contracts and stuff, that they either didn't intend to have him on the team by 2027, or if he was still a really high level player, that contract would have been ripped up and after 2026 and redone, and then more, longer years, more void years. And so that's why, to your point, like, it's really about this upcoming season. Well, they're still trying to be competitive, but they also have an opportunity to get something for a player that they probably didn't envision being a high-level player for them beyond this season.
Geoff Mosher, Football at 4. They did make a interesting signing over the weekend. This is a very Eagles signing, right? They went and got a guy who was a first-round pick a couple of years ago out of Washington, Joe Tyron, who was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I guess you could say a little bit of a bust, 32nd overall pick, first round, 4 years in Tampa, went to Cleveland last year. Then he got traded. So there you go. You get traded from Cleveland to Chicago. 16 games last year. He had 22 tackles, and that's basically it. So is he a guy that they think – is he in like the Uche role, the Ojolari, where you're like, hey, he was a first-round pick. Let's see what happens when we get him here?
Yeah, depth signing. It's Tryon, by the way. I know it looks like Tyrod's Tryon. He is a guy who has great arm length and has always been able to use it to his advantage. I think when he played for Todd Bowles those first few years in Tampa, you could see some real potential there, but he was also on a really good defense. They won the Super Bowl while he was there with Tom Brady, I believe, that first or second year he was there. But it never really materialized. I would put him more in the Josh Uche category than even Ojolari, because, Ojolari, when healthy, had a really high sack rate, really high pressure rate. Trent is a guy who, again, gave you like a glimpse of something, kind of the way Uche in year 2 had 12 and a half sacks, right, for the Patriots. I mean, this guy's never even come close to that. So, good player, depth, got to make the team. Right now, you don't have much at edge. We talked about this it's not that you don't have much, but you don't have what you ordinarily expect, which is like this Pro Bowl caliber, $25 million a year player that they thought they would have with Jalen Phillips. But he obviously, got blown out of the water by Carolina. So now they're just stockpiling bodies and seeing what they can get. It's a dark throw. Makes sense. I just wouldn't, put much into it other than that.
This is, hey, this guy had some talent. Let's get him here and possibly, something. He is a guy, though, who, he has 15 career sacks, so he's not a complete bust, but he has certainly not been what you hope to get out of a first-round pick. Let's go to you guys on the latest Inside the Birds podcast talked a little bit about the depth at some key positions. One of those positions, obviously, you guys talked about is tight end. You got Goddard back here. They signed a couple of guys. I'm kind of interested to see, Grant Calcaterra's back. They did bring a blocking tight end into the mix here, but is that tight end position one that's going to have the same – what role does the tight end have in this offense compared to what it's been before?
That is a great question, and I wish I could look into a crystal ball and tell you. And Adam and I had just kind of a difficult time trying to rationalize, and that's part of the trying to do it now. I mean, we're trying to figure things out when we know that there are more moves to be made and more things to figure out about this team. But it's Johnny Munt was brought here because he knows the offense. Played in Minnesota in it even last year with the Jags, similar offense. But, he was also already cut loose by the Jags. It's not like this was your normal free agent. So he's here to try to make a team, but he would right now be your most natural blocking your tight end, your inline blocking tight end. Goddard, you have to hope that he comes back with a little bit more vigor in the blocking game because it really started to decline from his game last year. Not terrible, but just not what he used to be. We know Calcaterra is not going to block. The point I was trying to make with Adam is, you let's say you're in 3rd and 4. All right, you want to be able to put something on the field where you can come in with a running play or a passing play. The Eagles have run the ball on 3rd and short well. I mean, they have good offensive line, Barkley. And so you want to be able to not give away to the defense what you're doing. Well, if you come out with Johnny Munt and Dallas Goedert and you are trying to pass the ball, well, you've taken away a passing option because Munt's really not going to do much for you in the passing game. And you're probably going to get a lot of bodies coming at you on 3rd and 4 because that's when teams like to man up and blitz, right? So you want someone more like Calcaterra. But then if you go out with Calcaterra,
yes,
you're not running the ball. Or if you are, it's not going to be a good thing. So right now they're in an unenviable position of being a team that wants to play multiple tight ends. But when they do, they're a little bit telegraphic. And, when you're talking about depth, and this is why, look, the draft, I think we all think they'll get a guy in the draft, and that could change the calculus 100 times over, right? If you get a guy in the draft who can do both. And there's a lot of those guys in this year's draft. But for right now, they're a little bit one-dimensional, and you're just not loving the depth with Munt and Calcaterra and Stone Smart is a dart throw. I'm just curious. I would like to see Cam Latu be more involved because I think he is a guy who can give you a little bit. If we know he can block, I think he can give you a little more in the pass game.
I want to also look at the interior part of the line. Obviously Juergens, he talked about how banged up he was last year. Dickerson, we know that he contemplated retiring, and probably the weakest spot of your line was Tyler Steen. So that's an area where they're still, looking for talent.
Yeah, so especially depth. I have no issue with Tyler Steen. I'm not saying he's great. I think he did his job. He played every single game, started at right guard. Probably played better, to be honest with you, start to finish than Dickerson, but that's only because Dickerson was, really banged up and hurt and coming out of games, and we know that Cam Juergens didn't play well either. So the depth, though, is a real issue, Mike. I mean, their top guy right now with Nelt Brentos, and I'm talking about depth on the interior. Obviously, bringing Fred Johnson back is good, but their interior depth right now would be Drew Kendall, going into year 2. He was a 5th-round pick last year. Less than 100 NFL snaps. And then you got guys like Willie Lampkin and Jake Majors, undrafted free agents who, Lampkin didn't play at all last year. Majors was on the practice squad, didn't play at all. This is not the Eagles interior line that we're accustomed to. And it won't be, trust me, it won't be once training camp starts. But all we can do is evaluate what they have right now. And what it shows you is they have a lot of work to be done on this offensive line, because not only is the depth shaky and they have to add to that, but we really don't know how Juergens and Dickerson are going to come back and play and what level they're going to play at this year.
All right, one other spot that you guys discussed that I thought was interesting on the Inside the Birds podcast is at the wide receiver spot, where we know A.J. Brown's future is in flux. But do we like the talent they have around them? Howie Roseman said yesterday one of the things that he noticed from some of these teams that have made deep playoff runs is the amount of talent that they have at wide receiver. The Eagles won a Super Bowl with really two guys carrying them there. Now, Dotson made some plays in that run, but are these guys now here because they finally have realized we need more than just two guys making all the plays?
Yeah. It's one thing about realizing, and I know Howie Roseman out in Arizona said something today, talking about the slot position, the number 3 position, where they need to get a little bit back to what they used to be when they had Quez Watkins, and he mentioned somebody else. Oh, Nelson Aguilar, in 2017. But it's one thing to recognize that and try to address it like they have, and it's just another thing for it to become a functional part of your offense, because that's where your quarterback is looking at. And so, we've always said the last few years, if you're a slot receiver or you're the number 3 receiver, you're really number 5 in the pecking order, behind the 2 wide receivers, behind the tight end, and then sometimes even behind the running back, depending on what the play call is. So, as much as I didn't love giving up a 3rd-round pick for Jahan Dotson, and it turned out to be bad business, to be fair, I don't want to hear they won the Super Bowl thing. That had nothing to do with it, right? As much as I don't fault him, I don't think he did anything wrong. He just didn't see the ball come his way very often, and they play a lot of 12 personnel too. So he's not on the field as much as other number 3s, and when he is, the ball just never really came his way. He was also miscast. He's not a true slot receiver, and I'm not sure Hollywood Brown is either, but he probably can give you a little bit more of that vertical slot option than you were able to get on Jahan Dotson.
Hollywood Brown, by the way, will wear number 0 for the Eagles. And obviously, last one I want to get your take on is between now and the draft, or maybe even draft day, do you anticipate a Tanner McKee trade?
I think it's certainly possible. Between now and the draft, you said, or the end of the draft?
Between now through the draft, yeah, on draft day.
Oh, yeah. I don't know that you'll see it happen before the draft. Some things still have to work themselves out. Kirk Cousins' situation, I think he's still out there, right? But I think by the end of the draft, there's a decent chance. And then I made the mention, just like I said to you a couple minutes ago, with what happens in training camp, you never know. Like, guys go down in training camp, teams lose quarterbacks, and if McKee is still with the Eagles at that point, and somebody loses their quarterback, you might get a phone call that you weren't expecting,
We went through the list of teams. It seems to me that there's only like 4 to 5 teams that really have quarterback even conversations.
You mean starting quarterback conversations?
Yes.
4 or 5 teams? Okay.
Yeah,
well, there's that's plenty, because there's not 4 or 5 starting level quarterbacks out there right now, most likely. And it also sort of depends on what a team thinks of Kirk Cousins at the moment, right? I just don't know who's gettable at this point that you would say, I want that guy to at least compete for my starting job.
All right, well, we have draft coverage coming up right here on Football at 4. Geoff Mosher and the team at Inside the Birds. They've got the podcast dropping. They got a new one on the depth of the team. Check that out over at InsideTheBirds.com, or where you get all your podcasts. Geoff, we'll talk to you Wednesday, man.
All right, take care.
All right, there's Geoff Mosher, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, as always, Ocean Casino Resort. We're going to be there for the draft party, and you can be there starting Wednesday. Listen for our famous contest sounder to go off. And if you hear it, be the right caller, and you have a chance this year. We got tickets to go see an Eagles game at Lincoln Financial Field. We've also got an opportunity for you to have an overnight stay at Ocean Casino Resort, and other great tickets and prizes. Football at 4, powered by the Ocean Casino Resort Fanatics Sportsbook, the place to be for the NFL Draft. By the way, Final Four, how about that game last night? UConn moves on, beats Duke. Just an epic fail by Duke. Epic fail by Duke. Is anybody, like, is Duke losing still the same as, like, when Duke used to lose? Does it feel the same, or does it, like, Duke even lost some of its, stuff? I don't know. A little bit. All right. All right, Sports Bash coming up. We will check in on the Sixers' big game against the Heat tonight. How impressive was their win against Charlotte? And is it finally time to let your guard down and believe? We'll ask Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers, who joins us next on the Sports Bash. At 428, Sports Bash Live. Don't forget, starting Wednesday, you have a chance to win tickets to see the Eagles play at Lincoln Financial Field this year. Our Eagles draft party will be at the Balcony Bar at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Tonight, the Sixers take on the Heat. You can listen to the game on 97.3 ESPN. Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers. Now, 2 weeks ago, we talked to Paul. It was gloom and doom. Now, all of a sudden, we got a real season. Now we got something cooking. The win on Saturday night, Paul, was that the win that they needed to change the perception and give you a little feel that something might be finally changing for this team?
Well, it sure beats the alternative of a 24-win season where no one's healthy. So, I mean, I think that's where I kind of am as someone who covers the team is like, you know, I remember where we were at this time last year, and it was not very fun watching Quentin Grimes score 30 points and they'd lose by 40. So from that perspective, this is much more entertaining, much more enjoyable. And yeah, I mean, you have to look at it, and I get it. Like, the Sixers are the most frustrating team of all four of the Philadelphia sports teams. Like, I don't think it's even a debate. And it's like they actually have two of their best players are healthy that we didn't anticipate let's be honest. Like, when the year started, we had no idea what you would get out of either of those guys. So to be in this spot right now, 8 games left, right in the thick of things, with both those guys coming off long rests and both looking the best physically, I would argue in the last 2 years, this is the best either of those guys has looked. Yeah, like you're allowed to feel pretty good about that. And then adding to that, Tyrese Maxey coming back with some fresh legs. And then the other pieces that kind of gain some confidence with those guys are out are still doing their thing. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of things are lining up in their favor. The schedule isn't the easiest. They do have a tough 4-game stretch coming up here soon. But, yeah, you have to feel pretty good with where they are 8 games left.
All right, let's take a look at a couple things here. One, Joel said his knee problems are behind him. That's not an issue anymore. I mean, am I supposed to take him for his word? And with that being said, does that mean he plays in a back-to-back, or he's ready for the grueling month-and-a-half run that you need to go all the way to the NBA Finals? Is that what I'm supposed to believe? His knee problems are gone?
No, I would not believe that. And look, if he has to tell himself that,
you heard him say that, though, right? He did
I was
say
right
that.
there. I was standing a foot away from him when he said it, and I wrote about it because I couldn't believe he said it. But look, maybe that's what he's got to tell himself, Mike. Maybe this is what he's trying to manifest. It's like, my knees are good. I will say this. I thought, again, the Chicago game and the Charlotte game, that's the best he has looked physically since before, like the MVP, like the after the MVP season, that first string of games before Jonathan Kuminga lands on his leg. From a physical standpoint, this is the best he has looked since before that. Like, he looks tremendous physically. That block on Brandon Miller, that's one of the best plays I've seen him make as far as, time of game, situationally, having to make an athletic play and run it. Like, one of the best plays I've seen him make in 2 years. So I think from all of that perspective, I'm sure he feels great. I'm sure his knees feel really good. So I get why he's saying that. So I think, I think what he's trying to convey is, one, again, like, manifest it and tell himself, I'm good. Like, here we are. And I do think that he is feeling probably as good as he's felt. The oblique's still an issue. He's got a random wrist injury that he doesn't apparently want to tell us what it is or what happened. But it doesn't seem to have affected him thus far because he's shooting the lights out in the 2 games he's been back. So, look, with Joel Embiid, you're taking everything. You're handling it all with care. But I think, again, from a physical standpoint, he looks really, really good.
He looked really, really good. I would give you that, and I was pretty surprised to hear him say, hey, the knee problems are behind us. That being said, he looked like the knee problems may have been behind him. He got off to a great start on Saturday as well. I mean, he had a great first quarter the other night as well. Paul George got off to a slow start in his first game back. However, it's pretty evident that having Paul George back makes this team considerably different and better.
Without a doubt. And I think the biggest area you see it is the defensive end of the floor. Look, the only reason Charlotte was in that game is that the Sixers couldn't get a defensive rebound. Their actual defense against a team that is, one of the hottest teams in the NBA, one of the best offensive teams in the NBA, the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA, their defense, the Sixers, was excellent. It really was throughout the entire game. And a big part of that is Paul George. His ability, like he is kind of, and I've said this before, he's like the quarterback of their defense. He has them on a string. Like he is a huge part of that. And then on top of it, it just knocks guys down the totem pole where you're not asking guys to do as much. In that Charlotte game, they switched everything 1 through 4. They haven't been able to do that at all recently. And they were able to do that successfully in large part because of Paul George. And you got to give some credit to Tyrese Maxey for being able to hang in there in some of those, tougher switches they got him involved in. But the same with Paul, like this is the best physically Paul George has looked as a Sixer, period. Like not even close. And I think defensively is the big part of where you see that. But like offensively too, he's just the shots there. He's moving better, just looks fresher. And I think Mike, he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He missed all that time with the suspension, and no one was happy about it. And I think the least of which was him. He was not happy about it. So I think he's come back playing with a little bit of an edge and a little bit of a chip. And it does, Mike. When they made this signing, he was the ideal guy. You have a dynamic guard, you have a dominant big man. What you need is a two-way wing who can shoot, who can play make a little bit, and who can really bring it on the defensive end. And I think the last 2 games, it's only 2 games, but I think you saw this is the guy that they thought they were signing when they gave him that max contract.
All right, Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers. Saturday, all of a sudden, Maxey's able to play. I mean, this is a team that never gets guys back early. How was Maxey able to play, and what did you see from him? Was he rushing back, or did you see a guy that, no, he looked like he's ready to go for these next stretch of games here?
I mean, it's important to point out, like, it was a pinky injury, so, like, his legs were not affected. He was able to stay in tremendous shape, and if anything, Mike, this is a guy who led the league in minutes. He probably could have used a little bit of a break. So I think in his case, that 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks off might wind up being a huge blessing in disguise for him. I think the main thing, Mike, was just, can he shoot the basketball with a splint on his finger, and how's that going to look? Because we saw it last year, and it was not pretty. I think he shot something like 2 for 20-something from 3 in the games that he came back. He already hit 3 threes on Saturday. So, like, I think you're already seeing whatever they did, whatever he did in the time off, the splint, whatever he's wearing, he's in a much better place playing with that. And I think that's all it really was, Mike. I think it was, of course, a little time to let it heal, but then also finding the right splint and the right comfortability where he can still shoot the ball at a high level and still dribble the ball at a high level. So of course, a little bit surprised he came back early because this is the Sixers and we all know how that goes. But at the same time, given the player, given the injury, I wasn't super surprised. And I thought he looked great. I thought, considering he missed 2 weeks off and then had to play with Joel and Paul George, for him to kind of come in and make it look that seamless, I think it's a testament to him and how unselfish he is. And then, too, just how good he is.
All right, then you've got Kelly Oubre back as well, and then how they incorporated him, because I'm very interested to see these last, 8 games down the stretch here, what the starting lineup looks like, how much time they get to play with each other, what the rotations look like, because this is the first time. Nurse looks like a miserable SOB for 2 years because he doesn't get to play with any of his toys. Now he does. How does he situate them?
I'm curious myself because I think that Barlow-Oubre dynamic is where it's most interesting and who starts. I think for now he sticks with Barlow as the starter, but as we saw Saturday, I think Kelly Oubre is going to close a hell of a lot of games because it's going to depend on the matchup, because you're going to face some teams that maybe have a guy at the 4 who's a little bit bigger. So, like, let's say, just for example, you play the New York Knicks in a playoff series, or you play the Cleveland Cavaliers in a playoff series. You probably want Barlow to be out there with Mobley or Towns just to give them a tougher matchup. Look, those guys are really good, and Barlow is a fine player, but he's not at that level. But you're going to want that size to kind of match up with those guys. But in the nitty-gritty of games, or like Charlotte, when they decided to close small the other night, you want Oubre in there because, again, you can do that 1 through 4 switch. And look, when it's Oubre, Edgecombe, and Paul George, man, that's a pretty dynamic trio of defensive perimeter guys that are going to cause some problems for opponents. So, and I actually, what I would say too, Mike, is I like the idea of Barlow starts and then Oubre brings that energy off the bench. He is that guy who is going to come out. He's going to play hard. He's going to get downhill. He might make some mistakes here and there, but he's going to play his butt off, and he's going to give you some juice off the bench. And I think that's an important thing. So I think that's how Nick Nurse is going to play it, with Barlow starting, with Kelly being the first guy off the bench, and then I think Kelly's going to close a lot of games too.
All right. So with that, are you telling the people to let their guard down?
Never. I would never assume to tell a Sixers fan to let their guard down. But I would say is this, like what I said off the top, man, covering those games last year in March and April, Mike, I think we all get into this industry because we love sports and we don't want it to feel like a job. That last year, that was the most in my 10 years of covering this team that it has felt like a job. It was grueling to come to the arena every night and have to watch that product. So for me, seeing this, watching that game in Charlotte and how entertaining that game was, now another game that has meaning tonight in Miami, just to watch games that have a purpose and a meaning. I think if you're a Sixers fan, just enjoy the moment. And look, you're going to get other things that are going to be fun. Like if you get to a playoff series, let's see what VJ Edgecombe looks in a playoff series. That is valuable development time for him. Let's see how Tyrese Maxey looks as the number one option in a playoff series. Like, chances are, if they, let's just say they, for the sake of this, they get the 6th seed and the Knicks are the 3 seed, everyone's going to pick the Knicks, and rightfully so. That's going to be an entertaining series, though, right? Like, that's going to be a fun
they
playoff
won't be a
series.
favorite. No matter who they play, they will not be the favorite in any of these series.
No, absolutely, nor should they be. But that will be a fun playoff series to watch. It will be, because the Sixers have so much talent, and they have guys who are hungry, who are going to fight, who are going to play hard against the Knicks team, who is kind of in like where the Sixers were, right? Like the onus is on them now. Like, they made a conference finals. Like, this is do or die time for the Knicks. Like, they are trying to win they are trying to get to the finals and win a title. Like, that's where they are right now. I don't think the Sixers are there right now. I think, if anything, if you're a Sixers fan, this is a little bit of house money, right? Because no one knew what to expect coming into the season. Everyone thought like at best they're going to be in play-in team. So to be in the position they are health-wise, with 8 games left in the regular season and a chance to maybe get a guaranteed playoff spot, I think most people would have signed up for that in a heartbeat in October.
All right, real quick, because Charlotte obviously is a team that doesn't have a lot of great history. They are, in the play-in right now, but that's an impressive win. This Charlotte team is not the Hornets. If you're a casual fan and you're just a Sixer fan and you're like, same old Sixers, oh, wow, they beat Charlotte on the road, who cares? That's not the story. That's a very good Charlotte team.
They've been one of the hottest teams in the NBA since the All-Star break, and it's not a fluke. Like, they've been playing great basketball. They have a lot of talent. Con Knippel might win Rookie of the Year. It, probably goes to Cooper Flagg, but Knippel's putting up one hell of a case. LaMelo Ball, for all his issues, super duper crazy talented. Brandon Miller has established himself as one of the most talented kind of, up and coming wings in the league. Like, they are a good basketball. You saw Moussa Diabate. That guy is just relentless, has a crazy motor, is going to fight on the glass all game. And I love their coach. I think Charles Lee is one of the best up and coming young coaches in the league. So, yeah, this is not your father's Charlotte Hornets. Like, that's a good basketball team that they beat. And like, I think when it's all said and done, I don't know where the Sixers lined up, but I will tell you this: I think Charlotte is no worse than 7th, because I think they are much better than the Heat. I think they're much better than Orlando. I think they are like it's that cluster of the Raptors, Hawks, Sixers, and then the Hornets are like right there behind them. And they're a team that no one's going to want to play, by the way. You ask who the upper seeds don't want to play. It's probably the Sixers and the Hornets are going to be the 2 top teams where it's like, yeah, we'd probably rather take our chances elsewhere.
Yeah, the Sixers will play the Heat tonight. If they win that game, Boston plays Atlanta. And if Atlanta loses and Philadelphia wins, you would get out of the play-in, at least for the night. You've also got a great game tonight if you just want to watch hoops. Detroit's playing Oklahoma City. It stinks that OKC is on the back-to-back, because that would have been fun. I know Detroit doesn't have Cunningham, but that's a great game. But that play-in, Charlotte right now, the Sixers with that win have separated themselves by 2.5 games over both Miami and Charlotte. They can separate themselves by 3.5 over Miami with a win tonight. If Philadelphia wins tonight, yes, they would get the tiebreaker, and they got the tiebreaker over the Hornets. If they win tonight, they would put themselves in a really good position to stay out of that play-in situation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all of these wins, like the last 8 games, every single one of these games matters to the Sixers. So the Hawks probably win tonight only because the Celtics are down Jaylen Brown and Tatum's not going to play the second half of a back-to-back. So the Hawks have a really good chance to win that game. So I wouldn't look for that opportunity to win. But the Sixers, again, Miami's coming off a back-to-back, and they just played Indiana and lost to Indiana.
They got
so
bombed.
like this is an extremely winnable game for the Sixers tonight. And like you said, can really, separate themselves from the teams behind them in the play-in. And then they play the Wizards up next. So the Sixers, these are the games they have to knock these games off, because then after that, you got Houston, Detroit, San Antonio. Like, that's a tough stretch they're going to have to play after. So it's not must wins, but these are the games, like, if the Sixers are serious, they got to beat Miami and then obviously beat a tanking Wizards team.
Yeah, and then it'll be interesting because if they win this game and they play the Wizards, Minnesota's bagged up.
Yeah.
It'll be a very interesting matchup when they play the Pistons on Saturday, a team that is banged up themselves. And if the Sixers ended up beating the Pistons, you would start to hear all right, well, we'll see. They play the Heat tonight. Let's get through that one first. You can listen to the game. No one's on the injury report other than Broom,
who wasn't going to play a second the rest of the season.
Correct. It's amazing. There's only Jani Broom on the injury report. Paul Hudrick will have all the coverage. Liberty Ballers at Paul Hudrick. Sixers Heat tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Thanks, Paul.
You got it, Mike. Anytime, man.
All right, there's Paul. And, of course, playoffs are almost here. Look, don't get overly excited. The only thing to get excited about is, for the first time, you might have a healthy team going to the playoffs. Knock on wood, because they still have games left. You can listen to the Sixers and Heat tonight on 97.3 ESPN. What else we got? Flyers tomorrow. This is your week. Sixers tonight, Flyers tomorrow, Sixers Wednesday, Flyers Thursday, Sixers and Flyers Friday, Sixers Saturday. Oh, Phillies every night. Sixers, Flyers, here we go. Final four this weekend. By the way, Mosher's a UConn guy. He wanted to rub that in my face, but I wouldn't let him. Not till Wednesday. And I like UConn, so not rubbing it in my face. He just wanted to get that out there. He's a UConn guy. All right, we come back. More Sports Bash on the way. Plus, in the 5 o'clock hour, great hour on the way. Geoff Kerr from the ballpark. Why are the Phillies sitting Crawford and Real Muto today? He has the details. Plus, Porter Martone playing Tuesday night for the Orange and Black. Kevin Durso joins me at 5:30. All right, 451 Sports Bash Live coming up in the next hour. Geoff Kerr is at the ballpark with an update on the Phillies and the Nationals. The lineup is out. We told you it earlier. I want to tell you about my friends at the Branches Outreach. And don't forget, yes, the weather is turning. Things are starting to get a little nicer out there. But the mission is to provide food, clothing, personal care items, and compassionate support to individuals and families experiencing homelessness in Cape May County. In the past year, they have welcomed over 10,000 guests into the Outreach Center and served more than 12,000 meals to those in need. Imagine, listen, the weather's getting nicer out. We all know it. Who cares if it's 90 degrees, 50 degrees, 20 degrees? People need to eat. And if you are someone that can help, if you are listening right now, the Branches Outreach is a privately funded group through donations from people like you out there listening to the Sports Bash. So they have personal care items, food donations during the week from 9 a.m. to 1:30 at the Branches Outreach in Rio Grande. And I urge you to give them support. They are big supporters of the show, and therefore I hope that my listeners will support them. Your donations, large, small. Right now, you can follow them on Facebook at The Branches Outreach or visit them online at thebranchesoutreach.org to find out more about what they're doing. But if you're out there and you're listening, you say, you know what, I want to try to help some people because they support the Sports Bash. I listen to the show. Therefore, I'm going to help these people out. The Branches Outreach is what we're looking for. All right, more Sports Bash coming up in the next hour. Geoff Kerr's live at the ballpark with an update on the Phillies. Their lineup is out, and it does have some tweaks in it, but Geoff has the reasons why the Phillies have made some of these moves. Plus, we'll get his thoughts on the first weekend at Citizens Bank Park and what he saw. Is this a run it back, meaning, hey, don't expect much to change? Plus, the Flyers with a huge win over the Stars last night, and on Saturday they beat the Red Wings, a hat trick there for Owen Tippett. Kevin Durso will tell us, though, that there's a bigger story emerging with the Flyers and how that could impact the team for them starting tomorrow night, possibly, against the Washington Capitals. So we got that on the next hour. Plus, don't forget, starting Wednesday, I can't wait for the draft. And the draft party this year, we've done it in so many different places. We got the balcony bar at Ocean. Think about this. Ocean Casino, the premier spot in Atlantic City, is giving us the balcony bar. This place is phenomenal, and it will be for the Sports Bash, biggest party of the spring, the Eagles draft party. All right, 5 o'clock, Phil's tonight. The lineup we told you earlier does have a couple little tweaks in it, but why do they have some tweaks in the lineup? We're going to talk to Geoff Kerr from 97.3 ESPN and the new Phillies Fastball podcast. The debut episode dropped today. You can check that out on all of the social media platforms at Geoff Kerr PHL, at Mike Gill Show. Phillies Fastball, all your Phillies news every day. Noon, a quick 15, 20 minutes. We went a little longer today because we had the whole weekend to talk about. But Geoff Kerr was a part of that show. He'll be a part of that show every day at noon. Tomorrow we'll talk about tonight's game and get you ready for Andrew Painter's big start tomorrow night. But there's a reason why one guy's not in the lineup tonight, and that's JT Realmuto, and that has to do with Andrew Painter, Jeff. So let's look at that lineup first. No Realmuto. No Crawford, which I want to get into a little bit. No Stott. So they're facing a left-hander tonight, but Realmuto's not in the lineup for a specific reason, correct?
Yeah, and really, JT Realmuto's day off probably would have been yesterday, but again, day game after a day game, Rob Thompson figured, let's just play JT Realmuto and give him off today so he can be lined up to catch against Andrew Painter tomorrow. So for the people complaining about JT Realmuto, that makes a lot more sense than what the Justin Crawford stuff is going on.
I have no complaints about JT Realmuto. He needs to sit more than he has the last couple of years. So if this is what they're going to do with him, to me, the sweet spot, Jeff, for Realmuto's got to be at about 120 games. He plays way too much, and they need to start pulling him back.
I agree, Mike. Look, he played what? I think it was 135, 136 games last year. He's played a lot of games. And look, if you want to give him a rest and make him a DH, that's fine. But you have a DH at Kyle Schwarber. You're not taking him out of the lineup. So, look, more rest is good for JT Realmuto. And I know JT wants to play every single day because he feels like that gets him into a rhythm. But he's 35 years old. It's time to play Rafael Marchand 45 to 50 games at catcher.
I agree with that. Let's go to center field. Brandon Marsh is a left-hander who struggles against lefties, but he's playing center field against a lefty for Justin Crawford, who hits lefties pretty well, at least in AAA. I know that doesn't mean you're going to come up here and tear the cover off the ball, but why Marsh in center today instead of Crawford? They were off on Friday. They're going to be off again on Thursday.
Yeah, this is really interesting to me, Mike. And when Rob Thompson said this to me and a couple of reporters yesterday in his office, and roll my eyes or anything, but I was like, oh, okay, like this is interesting, get Justin Crawford off his feet. And I get his reasoning, right? You don't want to overwhelm the kid too much. I know everybody's like, well, no, he's 22, play him every day. Sometimes you just got to let these guys hit the reset button a bit. And look, he struck out 3 times in his last 4 at-bats, so it is overwhelming the first week. He's had a busy weekend. I get that part. I think this is my philosophy on it. I think it's a way to get Brandon Marsh more at-bats. And remember, he always seems to get at-bats against the lefty early in the year. I'm not crazy about it. I know Brandon Marsh can't hit lefties, but I think this is a way for Brandon Marsh, who's going to play a lot, to stay in rhythm because you are facing 2 lefties in a row, and you don't want to give Brandon Marsh all that time off, even though he pinched it yesterday, etc. To me, it's just let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. Let's give Justin Crawford just a time to reset. He'll be back in the lineup tomorrow for Andrew Painter and give Brandon Marsh some more at-bats. That's the best explanation I got.
So Marsh is in center. Crawford is sitting this one out. You got Kemp in the lineup, which is normal, but how much longer can they play him? And listen, it's 1 game, but, man, he had a rough go in left field. And you and I talked about this during the spring training. They played him at first base and third base. Those innings should have all been in left field to get him as comfortable as possible. You could tell that he is, really learning this position on the fly.
He is, and, he learned it on the fly last year, and I thought he held his own, but you knew this was going to be the situation coming into this year, and I don't know if it was, okay, they're going to sign Bo Bichette. Either way, even if they did sign Bo Bichette, Otto Kemp was going to play left field. They are very high on Otto Kemp, as you well know, and everybody gets upset over that. Like, look, Rob Thompson defended him yesterday when I asked him, and I knew the answer I was going to get, but that's fine. And I believe they don't overreact to 1 game, obviously. There's, like Jesus Luzardo said, there's 159 more of these to go, but, man, Otto Kemp it wasn't his finest hour in left field yesterday, especially with those balls off the wall. I think this is more of, look, he's going to play against lefties. This is their vote of confidence in him. I mean, really, you can mask all this if he hits.
You could, and as Oscar Budijan brought up today on the Phillies Fastball podcast, they did have Brian De La Cruz, who has played Major League outfield, is a right-handed bat. Should they have given him the first opportunity and let Kemp get more seasoning in the outfield at AAA, or is Kemp's bat that much better than De La Cruz?
I think that bat is much more valuable in innings 1 through 6 when you're having trouble getting hits off starting pitching right now. And I think that's why Dylan Moore made this team, because Dylan Moore can play the outfield, Dylan Moore can play the infield, and it's, this guy could be a late inning defensive replacement and a good glove in the end. Like I know we worry about Otto Kemp. I know Otto Kemp cost them probably 2 runs yesterday with how he played balls off the wall. But you're not playing Otto Kemp in the 8th and 9th inning, right, Mike? You're playing Otto Kemp in the first couple innings, and you're hoping that his power shot. I agree with Oscar, too, with Brian De La Cruz. I thought he would have been a nice addition here, but I think they want to give Brian De La Cruz every day at bats, and when you have that opt-out in July, that changes things.
Okay, so you mentioned Dylan Moore made the team because he plays a lot of positions. Doesn't Otto Kemp play a lot of positions? Couldn't you have Brian De La Cruz be the left fielder against lefties and had Otto Kemp kind of fill the Dylan Moore role?
Is Otto Kemp a Gold Glover?
He's not, obviously, but, I know Dylan Moore plays all over the place, but Dylan Moore doesn't hit all that much. And I know Kemp, then he's probably not getting nearly enough playing time that you would like him to get. Not a perfect situation.
No, it's not. I think this is just the cloud of it all, right? They signed a right-handed bat this offseason, but he's playing every day in right field. He wasn't signed to be a platoon guy. They didn't bring back Harrison Bader because they believed in Otto Kemp. I believe this is Otto Kemp's chance. This is it, right? I think he gets about 3 or 4 months here to see what they think he could do. And look, I know the kid can hit. I know he's a good hitter. He's healthy. Let's just give it time. Let's just be patient here. But look, Mike, I'm like you. I'm very concerned about his defense, especially after what I saw yesterday. It's, with a team that's built around pitching, you can't have this.
So Geoff Kerr's with us, by the way. Phillies Fastball podcast every day at noon on all social media platforms. You can get all of Geoff's coverage on his Substack as well, which is really racking out a ton of stuff right now. One of which is about this lineup. Trey Turner had a slow spring. He said that's a good thing. To which I said, in 2023, he had a great World Baseball Classic and a terrible start to the season. But all these guys, it's only 3 games. That's what Rob Thompson's message was today. It's only 3 games. But these guys are all getting older, and they've all are slowly taking a step back. Should we anticipate that Trey Turner, Harper, Schwarber all take a step back from what they did a year ago? Real mood, though.
I'm not as worried about Trey Turner because of what they're asking Trey Turner to do. They're not asking Trey Turner to be a 20-25 home run hitter, right, Mike? Last year they told Trey Turner, we want you to be this. We want you to be a prototypical leadoff hitter that can steal bases and get hits. And he won the batting title, right? And, it is funny you brought that up today on your X account because Trey Turner even joked about that. Yeah, I had the best spring of my life, and that was the worst year of his life in terms of statistics. He looks that stuff up. So I'm not as worried about Trey Turner. I think Trey Turner will be fine. I still say he's going to be 280, 290 range, which is a really good year for him. Bryce Harper's the one I'm more concerned about because.
Well, let me ask you this. You were at the game this weekend, and it felt like the tension was building, and he comes up with the bases loaded, he strikes out. Is that boo at Bryce Harper that we're tired of you and all of this, or is this boo the moment of you struck out with the bases loaded, and anybody would have been booed in that situation?
I think this is more of we don't want to hear you talk about. We want to hear you do. We want to see you do it. That's what I really think it is. They want a reason to believe in Bryce Harper. And look, I think we all agreed when he signed this contract, the back half was going to be ugly. But did we think it was going to be ugly in year 8, Mike?
When was that back half going to start?
Yes, exactly. And I think it's starting a little too early. Now, look, I think people got very upset because they just want to get upset at Dave Dombrowski because he said Bryce Harper was not an elite player last year. He wasn't an elite player last year. Everybody wants everybody to be honest until they're honest.
Right. I think if you polled the fans, who are you more mad at, Dombrowski or Harper? They would say Harper. The Dombrowski told the truth.
I agree. And look, knowing Bryce Harper, I think Bryce Harper uses this as motivation. And I think he'll be fine this year in the long run. Again, it's only 3 games, but yeah, I want to see him get hits with the bases loaded. I want to see him hit 30 home runs again. That's what I'm worried about, Mike. Like, you signed Bryce Harper to be this 35, 40 home run hitter. How many times have we actually seen this in the life of this contract?
Well, last year he was on pace. He would have hit over. That's the odd part about Harper. Like if we want to really have a true conversation about Harper, he would have gone over 30 home runs had he, played the whole season. He got hurt. He missed some time. Yep. And is that something, if he hit 30 home runs, what would you say? Oh, he had a pretty good, he had, would that have been an elite year? I don't know. I think it was more, his on-base percentage was very good. What was it about his season that didn't live up to the standards? And are we seeing another season that is it going to be a good season or is it going to be a Bryce Harper season? Do you need to have a Bryce Harper season or can it just be a good season?
You know what, Mike? I think this is what has frustrated the fans too. And I just thought about this. Look at all the injuries Bryce Harper has endured since 2022. He had the elbow thing. He had the wrist thing. He had the wrist thing last year. It bothered him a lot last year. And this year, he's supposedly fully healthy, and I believe he is. So, yeah, to me, it's, look, if he has a year like he had last year, I'm not complaining, but don't you think we should be expected to be a little more like if he's healthy the whole year, I do think he's going to hit 30.
Well, if he hits 30, that would be obviously more than last year. But keep in mind, he missed time last year. So let's see how this all kind of unfolds. And obviously, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber hit the home run on opening day, Harper. And then there's Bohm. He had the home run, the 3-run homer on opening day, and then he's hitting 200. Are we going to be talking all season long about how they need a right-handed bat?
It seems like the case every year, right? That we're always going to be talking about, look, if Alec Bohm, Adolis Garcia, and Otto Kemp hit, we will not be talking about this. But are they all going to hit together? Are they all going to not hit together? Is one going to carry the team? I think Adolis Garcia is going to be fine. We talked about this on Phillies Fastball. We love that at bat he had with the bases loaded. It only ended up being a sac fly, but you could tell he was getting some pretty good swings there, and he was fouling pitches off. I like the changes he's made to his swing. I'm not concerned about him yet. But again, I also don't spend my time worrying about a guy who's only hit, 220 over the last 2 years?
Yeah, well, Garcia, big problem. Struck out 5 times this weekend. Another big problem, Geoff. The team struck out 31 times this weekend.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of strikeouts. And the chase rate, we talked about it on Phillies Fastball this afternoon. That chase rate, 31%. You can't all of a sudden mold these guys into new hitters. They're all veterans who have been doing this for a long time. It's hard to pull them out of their habits.
It is. And, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't think Justin Crawford's going to strike out as much as he did over the weekend. And, again, he's still learning how to play Major League Baseball. Otto Kemp struck out a bit in the minors, but he made up for it because he just hit at every single level. Adolis Garcia, we know he strikes out a lot. Brandon Marsh, he even strikes out a lot. But when these guys put pressure on the opposing pitcher, they tend to do some good things. And there is some good things you have to take some positives over the weekend. They were able to hit bullpens. Once they got to the Rangers bullpen, they hit, and they took a lot of pitches. That is the one thing, that's my biggest takeaway from the weekend, all the pitches they took.
That was, the one thing, but they didn't get a lot of hits from it. They had 4 hits on Sunday and 5 hits on Saturday.
It took them it took them to 4 2/3 innings to get a hit Saturday, and it took them 5 innings to get a hit on Sunday. Yeah, That's not good.
All right, let's get a couple other news and notes. Geoff Kerr, who, by the way, Geoff does a great job. His Substack is packed with Phillies stuff, and it's not only the big club. He will be at Lehigh this year. He will be at Reading this year. Let's go to Lehigh. Zach Wheeler, what did we see?
I liked what I saw out of Zach Wheeler. Look, in the 3 innings he pitched, fastball average velocity was in the 93, 94 range. First swings dipped to 92, but that was expected because, again, this is early March, late February for him in terms of building himself back up. But look, he said the spin on his pitches was really good. The breaking ball, not where he wants it to be, but it's getting there. It felt like an early March spring training start. And now he's going to go to Durham with Lehigh. He's going to pitch 4 innings, 50, 55 pitches. Then he's expected to go to Reading where it's supposed to be 5 innings the next time out. But you have to be encouraged by what you saw out of Zach Wheeler over the weekend, especially in that cold weather.
Let's go to Ryan Kerkering, almost like a forgotten man. Let's hear what you thought about him and what his prognostication might be and when he could get up to Philadelphia.
Well, here's the thing, Mike. If Ryan Kerkering could be pitching for the Phillies right now, but he's working on a splitter. And he did have the hamstring injury, and they want to be cautious with it because, again, hamstring injuries can linger, and he's completely fine. That's what I'm told. So he's going to go pitch back-to-back in Durham. He's going to be in Durham. By the way, Mike, this is a funny little tidbit. How many AAA ballparks do you think Ryan Kerkering has pitched in his life?
I don't even know how many AAA ballparks there are.
He's pitched in one. Coca-Cola Park. He has rehab with the Iron Pigs more than he's actually been with the team. Coming up. So Durham's good. So that's going to be his second AAA ballpark. He's going to go back to back Tuesday and Wednesday. I think it is. I think he's going to pitch Friday, and then they're going to make a determination. Do they bring him for the Giants series? They bring him back by then, or do they wait till they get home next week? If they wait, I think he stays in Lehigh for just another start or two. They want to give him 7 or 8 rehab appearance, or not rehab appearance, but total with spring training. So I think he's at 3 or 4 right now, but I mean, he's ready to go. It's just a matter of how long of a look do they want to give Zach Pop or Kyle Backes.
I was going to say, Geoff, then who's the odd man out? Who's the guy that ends up? Because keep in mind, when Wheeler comes back, Walker probably goes to the bullpen, you would imagine. Yeah. So there's probably 2 bullpen guys that go. Who are they?
I think it's Pop and Backes right now. They like Tim Mason. Tim Mason gave him 2 good innings on Saturday, by the way. I know it was – everybody goes, why don't they pitch their best guys when they're only down 2 or 3 runs? I'm like, why would you do that? That just doesn't make sense. Oh, by the way, Tim Mason's pretty good. He was a high leverage reliever with the Blue Jays just a couple years ago. I thought Mason pitched great on Saturday for them. They really like him. So, yeah, I think it's going to be Pop and Backes right now. Backes, I believe, has an option. Pop does not. So Pop would have to accept an assignment if he clears waivers. But, look, I think they gave Pop the spot because they like him. They gave him a lot of money guaranteed, obviously, $900K. But still, $900K guaranteed is $900K guaranteed. But those are 2, I think. And the first one I think will probably be Pop. Then I would assume Backes, but – we'll see. I mean, Backes pitched fine yesterday.
Well, it's early, and all these guys, obviously, as Jesus Luzardo said, we got 159 more to go. Luzardo didn't pitch great yesterday. What'd you think of the Nola start, though? I think that one's – Luzardo, I think we all think will round into form. Gave up a couple long balls. That pitch that McCutchen hit, that was a great pitch. McCutchen just had a great swing on it. But the Nola start, what did you think of his first outing on Saturday?
Yeah, I thought Nola gave up a cheapie when I rewatched the game. Obviously, I was in Lehigh when all this was going on. But, look, I don't think Nola pitched bad. I mean, he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. He said, obviously, I'd like to go another inning. I think that's what he expects of himself, to go 6 innings. I'm not as concerned about Aaron Nola. The guy just doesn't like pitching in the cold.
Nobody does. Nobody likes pitching in the cold. But I think
Zach Wheeler does.
That was the big thing, though, Geoff, was the fact that he gave up 2 home runs in the cold weather when the ball's not traveling. I think that's what had people a little bit more concerned.
Yeah, the guy openly admitted, the hotter the better. And it's funny, his mentality, Zach Wheeler's mentality. I'm asking Zach about short sleeves, and he goes, you just got to put a little more tack on your finger and, just make sure that, you can get the grip on the ball. But besides that, everything's okay. It's just a different mindset, right? Aaron Nola comes from LSU and Baton Rouge and loves – if it's a hard
He's been here long enough. He's been here long enough.
I know, but sometimes you hate it. Don't you hate the cold, Mike Gill?
I'm not a big fan of pitching in the cold. No, it's not something that I really enjoy.
I'm not a big fan of walking in the cold, and I run in the cold.
All right, Jeff Kerr, make sure you check out his Substack, Jeff Kerr on Substack, jeffkerr.substack.com. It is loaded with Phillies stuff from majors to minors and notes and more. Plus, tomorrow at noon, the Phillies Fastball Podcast. It's live on all social media platforms with Jeff and Oscar. And I'm in there from time to time. I hosted today. Oscar is was the Spanish voice of the Philadelphia Phillies, so he knows the team really well, and Jeff will be covering it day to day. So Phillies Fastball, noon tomorrow on all social media platforms. And, of course, Jeff will be back on Wednesday's show when we recap Andrew Painter's big league debut. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, Mike, there's going to be a lot of prospect content coming out on my Substack over the next couple of days. I was in Rang today, talked to Dante Nori, talked to Alex McFarland, Carson DiMartini, Al Padrique, their manager. But this is going to be the best Rang team you'll see at First Energy Stadium in a couple of years. And, of course, we got the Andrew Painter. So it's a big year for the prospects.
Yeah, and Arun Escobar, he's at Reading, right?
Yeah, he's at Reading. He's going to be playing some second and third base. Dante Nori, I was told today, he wants to get an extra look in left field. This is Nori's choice. So, I think
which is where he played for Italy, right?
That is correct. Yeah, and look, it's he was kind of surprised about the power, the power surge he had there, and as you know, Kyle Schwarber's he was telling me this story today. Kyle Schwarber's grandfather, or his grandfather recruited Kyle Schwarber to Indiana.
Got it.
So,
right.
By the way, Mike, Ian Miller has the stolen base record of 50 in Reading. Dante Nori joked, I'm going to double it.
Wow, double it.
Well, they got the bigger bases now. He's all excited about the bigger bases.
All right, well, I'm going to take an ABS challenge on that one, and we'll end up checking back on that one later. He's Geoff Kerr, at Geoff Kerr, PHL. Check out Phillies Fastball tomorrow at noon on all social media platforms. Thanks, Geoff.
It sounds great. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Geoff Kerr, everybody. Of course, he'll join us throughout the week a couple of times doing all our Phillies coverage this year. His Substack's great, by the way. It's like, for those of you who aren't really familiar with the Substack, is at Geoff D. Kerr. You just put jeffdkerr.substack.com. All you got to do is put your email in. It's free. All the content is free. It'll tell you all you need to do. But Geoff does a great job covering the Phillies and Phillies Fastball. We had a great time on that show. It'll be noon every day. It'll be about 15, 20 minutes, half hour at the most, recapping the night before, getting you ready for the game. Oscar Budajin, who is the Spanish voice of the Phillies, gives you a great perspective from that angle, and then Geoff from covering the team. And I'm just there kind of playing point, man. I'm asking those guys questions, throwing some opinions in there. But the dynamic of that show was a lot of fun. Every day at noon, check it out on all social media platforms. All right, when we come back, the Phillies, they had an interesting weekend. We're talking about prospects because Andrew Painter will talk tomorrow. Pitch tomorrow. Who else might make their debut tomorrow? Porter Martone. Wow. Are the Flyers really doing this? Crazy. We'll get the update on where he fits in, how they'll use him. Kevin Durso, our Flyers insider from 97.3 ESPN.com, host of the Flyers Files podcast, joins me next on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. 5:30 Sports Bash. Don't forget Flyers tomorrow night. They take on the Capitals. Big game. All of them are big down the stretch. 8-1-1 the Flyers are in their last 10. And help could be on the way starting tomorrow night. Big win over Dallas last night. Detroit on Saturday. Owen Tippett with the old Hattie. Kevin Durso covers the Flyers for 97.3 ESPN.com in the barn for the Flyers. Big win over Dallas. Probably one of the biggest wins. I can't remember the last time they had a win like that, right?
Not like that for a long time, probably. No, not with the playoff implications. Not with anything, I guess, that you take super stock in. It's as critical a game as they've played. It was not necessarily one that I think people had them winning. It was, a point was satisfactory in a game like that, considering the opponent, and they come away with 2. It's pretty massive.
So they get that win. They get the win over Detroit over the last 10. What has kind of clicked here for this team? What has all of a sudden changed and clicked to where, look, you beat, Toronto. That's one thing. Dallas is a team that has Stanley Cup aspirations here.
Yeah. Well, for one, Rick Tocchet has talked a lot about how they tweaked some things defensively over the Olympic break. So since they've come back, it's funny. They lost the first game back from the Olympic break, and that kind of multiple times they've had this moment where it felt like the nail in the coffin, and they just keep coming back at you with different things. So I believe since that game, they're 12-3-1 since losing the first game out of the Olympic break. And that's, so Tocchet's talked about some tweaks defensively. They do look like a more defensive sound team in those games since, no question about it. But I think it comes down to another aspect that we probably didn't really see coming, and it has a big tie to Sunday's game in particular, the win over Dallas. Sam Ersson has all of a sudden stabilized the backup goaltending position, and he's 5-0 in his last 5 games. And really is that he's the start and finish of this stretch of games we're talking about. The first win that they had out of the Olympic break, which was their second game back, it started this 12-3-1 stretch. He's 5-0 during it. And that really, it's the thing that was lacking 2 years ago when they were in a position to potentially make the playoffs, and it looked like they were going to with, 10 games left, 9 games left, where they are now. We all thought they looked positioned to be able to make it. They had nobody else to play behind Ersson in the first place, so you just had to keep rolling Ersson out there and hope for the best, and he was worn out by the end of it. Now it looks like you're getting that in reverse. It's all of a sudden you're taking the goalie who was statistically the worst in the league for the first 4 months of the season is now right up there with everybody else and giving you elite performances. So it's incredible to see how that has really been the driving force of this.
Right. I mean, now when you put Ersson in the game, you have a shot to win, and he's playing almost at the same level as Vladar, who played well as in the game the other day as well. So obviously Tippett gets the hat trick. You're getting some offense all of a sudden. And all of a sudden, you might get a little help. This Porter Martone thing just came out of nowhere. Maybe not out of nowhere, but the fact that it comes out of nowhere because Michigan State gets eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
And we have seen this happen in the past. I think, what's his name, in Colorado?
Cale Makar joined in time for the playoff run for Colorado. Not the Stanley Cup run they had in 2022, but a couple years before that. And that was the beginning for him. And now, obviously, he turned into a superstar. They won a cup kind of centered around him as part of their core. And Martone could be the same. What I'll tell you about this situation, Mike, is, Saturday already, it's a fun day from my perspective. Flyers are playing a big game later that night. There's a lot of scoreboard watching going on during the afternoon. And, oh, by the way, Martone's game was thrown smack in the middle of it. So I'm I heard you talking about multitasking earlier in the show. I'm multitasking like crazy because there's 4 games going on at one time that I'm paying some close attention to. And then Martone and Michigan State lose, and it was a surprise. It came as a shock. And you don't necessarily think anything of it right away because of the fact that the Flyers still have to go out and play a meaningful game that night. And it kind of influences how you feel about Martone joining, because if they lose to Detroit on Saturday, there's less meaning behind this. There's a big difference between Martone joining just for the run of the final few games and joining legitimate playoff competition. And so then they win that game. Now you add in this. And to me, the biggest layer of this is not just Martone being available, not just them getting him signed Sunday morning before their game, but he got into the building on Sunday for the last half of the game and so somewhere on the second period. So he's in the building to see them win the game against Dallas in overtime, to get that experience of what it's like when they do win a big game. He's in the locker room post-game, part of the team already, and everything now lines up for his own participation in it. So that's what's exciting about it.
Where does he fit in? Where do they put him? I mean, this is a team that's, this isn't a team that's bad and you just want to see him get out there. And this is a team that's starting to click and now has to say, hey, we got a kid who hasn't practiced with us one time. Where does he fit in?
Yeah, so you're right. You're trying to kind of, especially after you've won 3 straight games, and tomorrow's critical already because they haven't won 4 games in a row in over 2 years, I believe, at this point. So they're trying to snap that kind of streak, and now he's got to go into the lineup. And usually you don't tweak the lines too much when that happens. But they did going into Sunday's game with the knowledge that Martone was potentially around the corner, and they bumped Alex Bump to a different line and moved Carl Grunstrom to a line with Christian Dvorak and Travis Konechny, which felt not necessarily like a promotion, but more like a placeholder. So that's where I think you might see Porter Martone line up. They can move Konechny from right wing to left wing and let Martone play on his natural right wing position. And the rest of the lines would stay intact and you move forward from there. It'll be interesting to see because I don't think they had completely figured it out themselves yet prior to traveling to Washington this afternoon. There's always the possibility that they try to kind of feel it out with Martone and see how he reacts to that first game. Maybe they play him more if he's really feeling it. Maybe they play him less if it looks like he's struggling to keep up. It'll all depend, but that might be a likely starting place for him to get him. He's certainly going to play top 9 role. They'll probably give him some look on the power play. Morning Skate will tell us more about exactly where he's going to fit, but that would be my guess based on some of the things they've done over the last couple days.
All right, all this conversation, they've won 8 out of 10. How realistic is it that they have enough to make a playoff run?
It keeps becoming more realistic by the day, and it's not just them. They needed help to be able to make this a realistic possibility, and they got a lot of, after getting a lot of it on Tuesday and not taking advantage against Columbus, they got, a tiny bit during the course of the week. They got a lot on Saturday, and now by winning on Sunday, I mean, Columbus is one of the teams they're directly chasing at this point. They're 2 points back of Columbus for that final wild card spot. And Columbus is about, all things considered, about 2 minutes of game time away from having 2 extra points in the standings. They gave up at least 2 extra points. They gave up an eventual game winner to San Jose with about a minute and a half left on Saturday. And then on Sunday are leading Boston 3-2 with under 15 seconds to go and give up the tying goal they lost in a shootout. So that's how quickly this can shift. And that's where it's coming from. So it keeps getting more realistic. They have a lot of this in front of them still, playing teams like Detroit, the Islanders coming up. Those games are going to hold a lot more meaning than the others because they're directly related to teams in front of you that you're trying to pass for position. But these other games too are huge. The Washington game tomorrow now feels a little bit more less must win in regulation like some of these others have been. You can get away with getting 2 points to their 1 and still feel like you're putting them away. You're already up 3 points on them. If you gain 1 point on them over the course of that, you're still up 4 and you have games in hand on them. So you can create some more separation even by just winning in overtime or a shootout again. And that's really how you keep the line moving. So it's funny. It felt like an afterthought a week ago, right? They lose to Columbus in regulation, feels like it's over. And then they come out and they roll off 3 more wins in a row and get some help, and they're right back in the thick of it. So that it keeps being a realistic possibility by the day.
Well, the win against Detroit on Saturday gets the ball in motion. Then you're playing Dallas on a back-to-back who's a legit Stanley Cup contender, and you're thinking, all right, now after the game, Tocchet said something I thought was interesting. He said, we were the better team. Is this a team that is starting to kind of click at the right time and say, hey, we finally have kind of figured the system out and figured out what we want to be, and that we should be looking at them more seriously than we were maybe a month ago?
I think for me, as much as that's a big part of it, for me, belief is the biggest thing in that room. And they don't want to hear any of the outside noise. They don't care what other people think about how realistic a possibility it is or if people are writing them off. They've believed for way longer than probably a lot of the rest of us have. I can go back close to a month at this point, or maybe even a little longer, where Dan Vladar and Travis Konechny are talking about, we're going to keep pushing. We're not out of this thing. We're going to keep pushing for a playoff for a playoff berth because we believe in the talent that we have and the group that they have, and now it's delivering on all fronts. They have put themselves in that position by primarily believing in what they have in the room first and foremost, and then being able to execute on things. The last couple of games in particular, you're winning games because your power play has been delivering more than the opposition. That's not been the typical script for this team this season, but it has been in these last handful of games, and that can go a long way to carving out a path to getting you back into the playoffs, and that's what they've been doing. So right now, the biggest thing for them to continue to do is continue to do exactly what they have been, taking everything as it comes, one game at a time, and continuing to believe, because as long as they have that level of belief, they continue to play to a level that makes it believable for everybody else, that they continue to beat the teams that they are. This is the third time that back-to-back that you're talking about winning against Dallas. It's the third time they've won back-to-back games and swept a back-to-back this month. Forget about, sometimes teams are lucky to do that in a season. They've done it 3 times this month, and one of the other times they did it was not only against another contender in the Western Conference in the Minnesota Wild, but Minnesota was rested going into that game, and they still withstood it and won. So that's where that belief comes in. If you feel like you can take down anybody and then are able to deliver on it, you'll make believers out of a lot of people.
All right, Capitals tomorrow night. How important is that matchup?
It's still important, obviously. I mean, your goal right now, every time you go out there, is 2 points, keep the line moving. There's not a whole lot of action going on tonight that's going to really dictate where the standings go. It is a crucial game. The Islanders are taking on the Penguins tonight. That's the one game for scoreboard watching tonight. And really the only goal here is somebody's got to lose in regulation to benefit the Flyers. If it's the Islanders who lose in regulation, the margin for the third spot in the division is 3 points, not 2 like it is coming into today. But there's 2 games in hand on the Islanders and a head-to-head matchup this Friday coming up, so that would be favorable. At least put a roadmap in front of the Flyers, let's just say. And if Pittsburgh loses in regulation, then the margin remains 2, and you have a path to potentially being tied for the third spot in the Metro by the end of tomorrow night, not just being on the cusp of trying to pull off a wild card spot. So there's a lot of scoreboard watching to still be doing, but the task at hand is the task at hand, and you've got to keep getting 2 points regularly to keep yourself in this thing.
Got Detroit on Thursday, so you're basically playing every other day down the stretch. That's another big game, and then the Islanders might be the biggest game of the season coming up on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stretch of games where, and like I said, maybe the Washington one takes on a little less meaning because there's a little bit more separation between the two teams. It's not like Saturday when they played Detroit. You need to trim the margin yourself. When these games present themselves, you need to trim the margin. You just need 2 points against Washington by any means necessary to keep staying in front of them, keep gaining ground, and then await what the other teams do. When you play Detroit on Thursday, it's a legit must-win game, regulation, no exceptions. You play the Islanders, it'll depend on what the rest of the week holds for the Islanders, that if they continue to pull away with the margin and, maybe 2 points by any means necessary is more important, but there's a good chance that you might need that one in regulation too. So, and then you got Boston on the horizon, which is starting to become another one of those win by any means necessary, but it's still a team that's in the running that we're going to put in this conversation of scoreboard watching and standings watching. So these next 4 are absolutely massive. They all have great meaning. It couldn't be a better spot for Porter Martone to insert himself into the lineup because you're getting thrown into the fire now. This is a playoff race. Every game holds a lot of meaning, and he's here to try to help them out and see if he can't contribute something new to the push, or even better, ignite a fire under the rest of the team that hears something else. It's a new element to this. So
was this a surprise that this happened so fast and that he's going to play, it sounds like, tomorrow night?
No, not at all. Once he was, I actually, Elliot Friedman put out there something about that if Martone could have actually made it to Philadelphia in time and had all the clearances, he would have played last night. That's how much he wanted to get going. So he said something to the effect today of, after the game on Saturday, you spend some time with your teammates at Michigan State, the seniors that were leaving, all of that. And Sunday morning, it was like it's another day, and he wanted to turn pro essentially. So this came together quickly because the player wanted it as much as the team wanted it.
All right, tomorrow night you can listen to the Flyers and the Capitals right here on 97.3 ESPN as they continue to try to hang in the playoff race. They are at 86 points, 2 points behind the Penguins for third in the Metro. And then, of course, the wild card now, they have 2 past because they are 2 behind Columbus in the wild card. They do need to pass Detroit and Ottawa, but they do have a game at hand on Columbus, and they have the same amount of games as Ottawa, Detroit, and Pittsburgh. So down the stretch they come. Kevin Durso finally might get to see playoff hockey. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. It would be remarkable if they could pull this off.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. Kevin Durso, everybody, at Kevin_Durso, as the Flyers play tomorrow night right here on 97.3 ESPN. Looking forward to that. I watched pretty much the whole game last night. I would say I tuned in probably like 4 minutes left in the third. I was watching I was in the car for Duke UConn. Watched a little Oklahoma City Knicks. I had that game on. And then I went Flyers. Tonight, who you watching? At Mike Gill Show. Got a quick little vote up there. You can get involved. At Mike Gill Show. We'll recap on the other side. What are you more interested in tonight? Phillies, Nationals, Sixers, Heat. Who's getting your attention? It's a quick little poll. We just threw it up. I'm just kind of interested. Should have thought of this one earlier, but I'm kind of interested if you're more intrigued by the Sixers tonight or the Phillies tonight. We'll recap the show, update the poll question coming up next on the Sports Bash. All right, 5:51, getting ready to get out of here. A couple things tonight. By the way, did you see, everybody's seen the call from Rafferty?
Yes.
Hilarious. Epic.
He's a national treasure.
He is. I mean, he looked like he witnessed a murder. When that three-pointer went in, he was stunned with that result. What are you watching tonight? What are you more interested in tonight? Phillies or Sixers? Wouldn't you know? We popped the poll question up, finished 50-50. Sixers tonight against the Heat. Phillies tonight against the Nationals. Both 7 o'clockers. Now, what are the Sixers on? Peacock?
I think the Sixers are. I think one's on plus and one's on regular, isn't it?
I thought the Sixers were a national game tonight.
Let me double check.
I think they're on Peacock or whatever. Blah.
NBC Sports Network, yeah.
Yeah. Because the Phillies are on NBC Sports Philadelphia, and then I think the Sixers are over on the national thing tonight.
That's a shame.
Well, it's a good doubleheader tonight. You got, I think it's the second game is Detroit against Oklahoma City.
Yes.
Yeah.
It also says NBC Sports Philadelphia.
Who does?
It says online here.
Well, let's go. Let's see what the
That's what the TV says.
Sixers pregame. Okay, Sixers on. Oh yeah, Phillies are on plus,
That's what I thought.
and the Sixers are on NBC Sports Philadelphia, and the Phillies are on plus. But I'm pretty sure
I haven't lost my mind yet.
that they are also on.
Is it regular NBC maybe?
Oh, maybe
8:10.
8:10. Look at that numbers. No. Oh wait.
You're at 8:04. That's TV 40.
Nope.
Just NBC Sports Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it's on that Peacock channel that I have.
The special YouTube TV one.
Yeah. What else we got? Good show today. Had a lot of fun. Good to get a little Flyers talk. How about that? Wow.
Porter Martone.
I cannot believe they put themselves in position to be in the playoffs, and now they're going to get this kid up here. It's going to be very, very interesting. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. That'll do it for us. Wednesday will be your first chance to enter to win tickets to this year's draft party, which you can win a pair of tickets to go see the Eagles. Club box seats, 50-yard line for a game this season. Overnight stay, Ocean Casino Resort. Concert tickets will be at the Balcony Bar April 23rd, first night of the draft. The winning starts on Wednesday. We'll talk tomorrow. Frank Close has his Phillies mailbag on tomorrow's show. Have a great night, everybody.